Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our council meeting for Monday, November 3rd. I'd like to call the meeting to order and begin by inviting you to rise as you're able to join us in the singing of O Canada. I would like to begin by reading our land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge with respect that we are meeting on the traditional lands and treaty territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which includes the Chippewas of Nawash Unceded First Nation and the Chippewas of Saugeen First Nation. We also recognize the Métis, whose ancestors shared this land and these waters. We extend our gratitude to all Anishinaabe and Métis peoples and their descendants, past, present, and future, who continue to care for and inhabit these lands and tend these waters. And I'll just ask you to join me in a moment of silent reflection on our business today. Thank you very much. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in the nature thereof? Councillor Yurick?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm declaring for 10.A, the Meaford Culture Foundation agreement for the Meaford International Film Festival. I will be recusing myself for that.
Understood. Any others? Oh, Councillor Ennis?
Thank you very much. I have an indirect interest in item 9.1C, the land acknowledgement policy review, on the basis that I'm employed by a party with an interest in the matter.
Okay, thank you for that. And we'll move right on to announcements. And I'm going to start by just welcoming Councillor Eric Ennis. Congratulations, Eric, and welcome to the Horseshoe. Now, I have another announcement, and then I'll open it up for other councillors. On July 29th, 2024, an ordinary day turned into a life and death situation at our harbor. A woman accidentally drove her vehicle into the water, and without a second thought, 4 courageous individuals from our sailing school jumped in to help. Thanks to their quick thinking and bravery, the woman was safely rescued. While we are fortunate to have Griffin Dauphiné and Kyle Gillis with us today, we also want to recognize the heroism of Elian Halbertsma and Nate Brand, who could not be here today. All 4 demonstrated incredible courage and selflessness, putting the safety of another above their own. So on behalf of the municipality of Meaford, it's my privilege to present some certificates of recognition to Griffin and Kyle, with our deepest gratitude to all 4 for their heroic actions. Your courage has left us, yes. Your courage has left an indelible mark on our community, and we are truly inspired by your example. And I'm going to come down there and shake your hands. These certificates are certificates of heroic, help me, Nina.
Heroic actions.
Heroic actions, yes. And I don't think we've ever done a certificate quite like this in the past. And it's just such a pleasure. I'm sorry that it is a little overdue, but getting all four of these guys, good job they were all together on that day. But getting them together, to honor them has been a little harder. But thank you so much again for all you've done on behalf of Meaford. Other announcements? That's, yeah, go ahead, Councillor Greenfield, and then Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just a small reminder at the Meaford St. Vincent Community Center at the arena, with the ice having been installed some time ago, there is public skating at the arena. This is free public skating, Mondays and Wednesdays, starting at 11 o'clock, running to 1 p.m. And as far as I know, that's every Monday and Wednesday for November, and the schedule will be updated at the 1st of December. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good afternoon, everyone. Just a reminder that Meaford Dragons is upcoming Thursday, November the 13th, 7:30 p.m. at Meaford Hall. Rotary will be donating for the Audience Choice Awards, so the audience also gets to participate in this event. Dragons is presented, of course, by the Meaford Chamber of Commerce. There are 5 dragons and 5 local dragon slayers, and it's a lot of fun, so come on out and support local business, and hopefully we'll see you there. Thank you.
Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With this being our council meeting just before Remembrance Day, I will just speak just a little bit about that for the moment or two. I noticed on on my cell phone, there was some information that was sent out on October the 30th. And the headline of it was Meaford Downtown and Meaford in the Fall. And there's a little bit of inaccurate information there. It basically alluded to what the local legion did 2 or 3 years ago when we came together literally on Sykes Street. But that information is, well, it's a bit of history. But what we are doing, and I invite those that are able to come out to the ecumenical church service on Sunday the 9th at the Meaford and St. Vincent Community Center. It's always well attended, and the local legion always appreciates the support that we do get from the collection that is taken that day. And above all, I take the opportunity, if you can find some time, on Tuesday at 11 o'clock, we're at the Cenotaph downtown, and people have asked about if they wish to be part of the procession. Basically, 10 o'clock at the Meaford and St. Vincent Community Center. I know that's when the Canadian Forces bus is going to be arriving at 10 o'clock. And again, I was informed that they have listed 4 buses. So we may well again be looking somewhere close to a couple of hundred troops from the 4th Canadian Division. And I'm always humbled when I am out front with that. It's a responsibility, and it just shows the commitment from the Lieutenant Colonel. He really wants to be involved, and I think that it's always an opportunity for him and the forces to be engaged. And Tuesday, November the 11th at the Cenotaph. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. And I would just say, I believe we had 300 soldiers for the freedom of the city, which was a lot of soldiers. And last year, and I believe this year, I'm again going to have the privilege of standing on the reviewing stand as they parade by. It's a great privilege, and I just want to encourage people to enjoy this occasion and to clap your hands for these people who represent and who are prepared to fight for our country and our freedom. Any other announcements? If not, we'll move on to public participation. Members of the public are encouraged to provide council with their comments and questions. Presentations must be prearranged with legislative services before the agenda is released and will be limited to 10 minutes. If a member of the public wishes to make a deputation on items on the council agenda or ask a public question of council, they may do so either in person at the council chambers or remotely via Zoom, phone, or internet. Members of the public wishing to make a deputation or to ask a public question must register in advance, however, and you do that by contacting legislative services by 10 in the morning on the day of the meeting. You can contact clerk@meaford.ca or call 519-538-1060, extension 1100. An email with access information will be sent to those who register for remote participation. And a reminder that deputations are limited to 5 minutes and public questions are limited to 2 minutes. And a reminder, the public can watch this meeting live via the Municipality of Meaford's YouTube channel, www.meaford.ca/YouTube. So the first public presentation today is from Skyline Council is from Skyline, and Greg Jones is their representative. And Greg, I call you to the microphone, and we'll get someone to turn it on for you there.
Great. Good afternoon, Your Worship, members of council. It's my pleasure to come today and give you an update on property we own and been aiming to develop for nearly 5 years now. Just a reminder, today is an update. We're not looking for any decisions today. It's not legally required. We're zoned, we're site plan approved. But I generally wanted everyone to know me and know what we do and know what's going on in the general public, and happy to answer questions from the general public as well. Just get right into it. Tell you a little bit about Skyline and SkyDev and what we're doing. Skyline started 30 years ago, a couple of guys out of Walkerton and Fergus, Ontario. It's a homegrown Canadian company. Started buying apartment buildings, developing apartment buildings. Buying up apartment buildings. Today, creating an apartment REIT in 2006, creating our own wealth management company, created an industrial REIT, a retail REIT, a clean energy fund. I'll briefly touch on each one. Sorry, I guess it's got a slide timing. I just keep going back to it. We have an energy fund, and SkyDev started in 2019, developing rental apartments across Ontario. Today, we're just over 9 billion of assets across Canada. We are privately run. Any one of you could invest in it. It's not publicly traded. It is a private investment company that specializes in real estate. So the apartment REIT, we have 22,000 rental apartments across Canada, providing rental housing to the average person in the community, sometimes people with lower incomes as well. We have 10 million feet of high bay industrial buildings, like 50-foot high industrial distribution facilities across Canada. We have just over 5 million square feet of retail. All of our properties are not in Toronto, they're not in Vancouver. It's all secondary and tertiary markets, providing the retail REIT doesn't have any enclosed malls. You'll see our logo across Canada. It's breads and meds, grocery stores, pharmacies, that kind of stuff. We are the biggest producer of biogas in Canada. We literally take municipalities' garbage and turn it into energy. We have fields and fields of solar panels. And now to SkyDev. So since we started in 2019, we have built over 600 rental apartments in communities like Chatham, Tecumseh, Gravenhurst. If you go through that Sobeys Plaza on the way into town, we developed a hotel there, rental apartments, some retail pads, built in Welland, Ontario. We're just finishing up and starting to rent a rental apartment development in Collingwood, you can see. It's right on Highway 26. And just the last one on that slide is a 32 apartment supportive housing development. So part of our mission statement is to add value in communities we invest in. We donated our land and our time to a nonprofit to develop 32 bachelor apartments at deeply affordable rents with 24-hour care on the ground floor. Guelph Community Health Center provides 24-hour support, literally pulling homeless people off the street and giving them a permanent place to live. So we aim to do that in other communities where we can lend our expertise and make a difference. I'll tell you more about what we're doing, what we'd like to do in Meaford. What are we doing right now? So we currently have just under $1 billion of rental housing under construction in Ontario. We are developing 199 rental in Simcoe, Ontario, near Port Dover. We're building 166 rental apartments in Belleville, 267 rental apartments in Owen Sound, and that's just the first 3 buildings. We have approval for 712 there. We have 2 towers going up on the 400, you can see, a 25-story and a 29-story, with a 3rd building at 34 stories coming. That's 565 rental apartments. You'll notice the theme, a lot of rental apartments. Just some quick renderings, what it looks like right now. We primarily build non-combustible precast buildings that we keep and own forever. We're not building wood. We're building high quality, high-end rentals with quartz countertops, stainless steel appliances, great indoor, outdoor amenity spaces. Primary demographic is workforce, homes or rental apartments, as well as retirees and empty nesters that want to sell their home and rent and take their nest egg, invest it, and rent an apartment and have that turnkey lifestyle. Just another couple more renderings, what it looks like now. I just thought I'd like the drone photos. Owen Sound, half an hour down the road, right on the water. Building, that's kind of what it looks like. We're clearing the site right now, pouring footings. I just thought you'd enjoy what we're doing now and some footage of it. This is our development in Barrie, right on the 400. This is what it looked like last month. You can see the glazing going in there, the cranes going on. It's highly visible project. So I wanted to give you an update on property we own right at the waterfront, right beside the marina. We call it Aspen Shores. We have zoning approval. We have a site plan approval. We went out for sales and surprise, there's no condo market to be seen. We didn't get any third-party sales. It did not move as a condominium. So naturally, we can either wait a few years and leave a giant hole in a property waiting for the condo market to come back, or we can pivot and deliver rental housing. I just want to give you the big picture here. We're looking at investing over $80 million in rental housing. You have a rental apartment universe of only 260 rental apartments in Meaford. We would increase the rental supply by over 75%. We would also, in that picture on the far right, we'll get to it on the site plan, is a hotel. It is zoned for a 5-story hotel. We received a severance and this is like an update. It's been a while since we talked. Some of you are aware and whatnot. I wanted to be forthright so everybody knew what was going on. They would invest an additional over $20 million building a destination hotel. So we've sold that property to Vintage Hotels. You may be familiar with their product in Niagara on the Lake, the Pillar and Post series with the Queen's Landing and the Prince Edward Hotel. They specialize in boutique destination hotels, providing spa, restaurant, really is a draw for hospitality and tourism. So the aim with this development is to be a catalyst to invest in Meaford, to invest in rental housing, to invest in tourism, and to invest in your waterfront. This development is contributing $300,000 to the waterfront in front of our lands. but we've also offered to lend our services to actually build that as well as more at your discretion and at the staff's request. Because we want to make a difference. We want to see a beautiful waterfront. I know you have waterfront plans, and that's a public process, but once you get there, we're happy to help. We'll just move on to the next slide. That's the location. It's a triangle. It's right next to the harbor, right on the waterfront. I was driving here, I saw a beautiful rainbow on the way on the water. I thought, oh, wouldn't that be beautiful with the same buildings? So this is what was site plan approved as a condominium with a pool, pickleball, dog run on the road towards the front of the property, some amenity space there. In order to make it viable as a rental, where we are going to committee of adjustment with some changes, the exact same height of the building, but changing some of the grades around the building to allow for more rental apartments and to move the parking instead of underground to be on grade. So it is affordable. Our goal, and the only way we can build rental housing, is that it's affordable for the average person in a community. We're hitting that median income point. If we're more expensive than that, you're better off buying a house or buying a condominium typically. So here's the new plan. It is a rendering. You'll see some renderings where we show like sand on the beach with a boardwalk later on in the presentation, but this one's just kind of showing the trees, how they are now in the hotel. The buildings are in the exact same location. There's no change to that. We are building more parking on the surface and moving the pickleball and the dog run away from the streets where there was some concern. Well, we don't even have a dog run anymore. We just moved the pickleball away. So this kind of highlights the change in grade. We used to have beachfront units facing the water. What we'd like to do is not put a whole bunch of fill and continue with the sloping grades of the road to have more rental apartments where there used to be parking. Here's the rendering of what it could look like if you dump a whole bunch of sand on the waterfront, but that property is the municipalities, and it will be up to a public process and the design process of what that might look like. But you can see to the far right, from my perspective, that's the hotel. The design is our concept of a hotel. I'm sure vintage hotels will have their own idea of what that might look like that would go through a site plan process. Nice rendering of me on my kayak. And the exact same amenities that the condominium had, indoor, outdoor. The only thing that differs is there wouldn't be an outdoor pool. But we do try to get indoor, outdoor contiguous space, party rooms, operating lounge, fitness centers. It is not a low-end rental by any means. It is designed and catered to being a new rental apartment for more higher end rentals. We find in communities where you don't have a lot of rental supply, people are kind of stuck in these older buildings and they could afford more, but there's nowhere to go. So it's an opportunity for people with no down payment to go and rent, people with homes that want to have a turnkey lifestyle to go and rent, and people that want to work and live in Meaford to rent instead of hopping on a bus and going to our Owen Sound development. And that generally is what we're up to. We're trying to make a difference on the waterfront. We're trying to invest in Meaford. We're committing to over $100 million of investment. And I understand there's other members in the community that are here today to speak to our change in design and move to rental, and happy to make myself available to answer questions that they may ask you that you may want me to come back up, and happy to answer any questions you may have of me today.
Okay, thank you very much, Greg. Congratulations on, the history of your company and how it has grown into a major Canadian success story. And these numbers are very exciting. The whole idea of getting more rental accommodation in Meaford is very much a concern of council's. We need it. And so I just going to take a second and ask our chief planner, Amy, to just speak to the process today, because this is not a planning meeting, it's a council meeting. This particular public session is designed for presentations and deputations, but there's no decisions. We're not making any decisions today on anything, nor really can we. And I think Amy will be able to explain a little better just what stage this process is in, and sort of it'll be instructive to those who have come, I think, today to hear you and to probably respond to you. And I think that's probably the best thing. Talking to council is not probably what they need to do today. They need to talk to you, and you say you're going to make yourself available, which is great. Amy?
Thank you, Your Worship. This is not a public part of the required legal
No,
process. I'm here on a voluntary basis, so everyone knows what's happening.
Amy, thank you for this.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I'm happy to shed some light on where we are at in terms of the public process. So the Planning Act does set out for us those application processes that warrant public consultation, official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendments, that type of thing. The site plan approval process is not one that legislatively is looked to as a public engagement process. In recent years, since 2022, the Government of Ontario has made additional changes to the site plan control process that has moved even the decision-making for site plan approval from local councils to a designated staff member or authority. So the public engagement, public consultation phase in our minds did take place at the zoning bylaw amendment juncture. Certainly, if a zoning adjustment is required either through an amendment to the bylaw or through a variance, those are public processes. A variance is a public hearing. So those may afford additional public consultation periods if those are warranted. As Mr. Jones alluded to, likely at least a variance will be sought by SkyDev. So at this point, site plan approval is in the hands of staff pursuant to the Planning Act. And we would encourage, however, any members of the public that have concerns at this point to be in contact with SkyDev and let them know their concerns.
Thank you. And what about the appropriateness of council questions for Mr. Jones at this point?
I'll certainly leave that in your hands, Your Worship. As you noted, there's no decision in your hands today. Certainly, I would think that if council is looking for clarification on anything, Mr. Jones would be happy to help you.
Thank you. So,
As would staff.
thank you very much. I think that many interesting points in your presentation. Does anyone on council wish to ask a question? And I'll start with Councillor Yerick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the presentation. Very helpful. And thank you, Amy, for the explanation. I guess the only question I had was, that's where we are in the process. So again, that lovely crystal ball that nobody has. Just realistically, where are we in a timeline of actually getting shovels in ground, moving forward? What is your estimation in terms of actual creation? Mr. Jones.
Through you, Your Worship, in a perfect world, we'll start construction this spring. There's quite a bit of redesign in terms of not having underground parking from a structural perspective that we're working on. We're also working on a site plan amendment and minor variance. So it takes a bit of time to get through that. The other aspect is we spent $8 million digging a hole, cleaning up the waterfront on a very contaminated brownfield site, and we're hoping you'll put your CIP bylaw back in place, and that would be required for us to start.
Good. Yes, a supplementary.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just to follow up with that does that inclusive of both the hotel and the Skyline property, or what's the timeline on the hotel versus?
Through you, your worship, the hotel is working on a site plan amendment submission to include a spa and a restaurant and a number of other things, and including a more of a boutique design than that box I just showed you. From my discussions with them, they want to make sure they want to make sure they're finishing at the same time as us. So I expect that they'll be working with staff in the next 6 months to submit that.
Deputy Mayor Keaveney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 2 questions, if I may. Thank you, Mr. Jones, for making the trip and being here with us today. Firstly, I'm wondering if it is the intention to work with Vintage Hotels on the exterior finishes of the buildings that you are proposing to kind of be visually in line with what the hotel may look like?
Through you, your worship, yeah. Landscape and design with each other to make sure they're coordinated and I think the exact words are a higher scale finish and look to make sure that they work well together and they're complementary to each other. They don't necessarily need to be the same, but they need to be of the same caliber.
Thank you. And if I may, I know we talked about, higher end rents. Do you have any idea off the top of your head at this point, what type of rent we may be looking at for some of these units?
Current market rents sorry, through your worship, we're aiming for that median income rent. The County of Grey describes it quite well, but it would range in the $2.50 a square foot per month range to $3.20 a square foot range. Naturally, the more affordable apartments wouldn't be looking over the water. Currently, it is proposed as a market rental, and we'd be seeking a premium value for those waterfront units or suites rather. But we are open to perhaps it's not as big of a deal having some people paying less rent beside people paying more rent in a rental building, not the same way as a condominium. So we are open to doing some more affordable rents through a CIP program if that was available. It's not currently available. I'll give you an example. In the city of Barrie, our first tower is 25 stories. It's just simple math for us. What's the prevailing rent according to the province that's considered affordable? And what's the value differentiation on the cap rate basis? And they, through their CIP program and the half funding, the federal funding they received, we received 6.7 million to do 32 affordable rentals there. And they're spread throughout the building, so it's not like this and them. It's integrated in the development. So we're willing to do a percentage of more affordable rentals to the provincial guidelines, but with today's construction cost and the brownfield cost and and waiting 4.5 years, it's in order to make it possible, it needs to be subsidized on a capital cost basis to do that. And we committed to 25 years of affordability for that. And generally people don't move out after that and they have the right to stay and so on and so forth. So they stay affordable for a very long time.
Thank you.
Any other questions, council? All right, thank you again very much, Greg. And I'm going to move on to some of our deputants now and call on Danielle Hessel. Can we get our microphone on there? No, we'll get you fixed up.
All right. Good afternoon, Mayor Kentner, Deputy Mayor Keaveney, members of the council, and the municipal staff. Thank you for providing me with this opportunity to address you all today. My name is Danielle Hessel, and I live at 207 Boucher Street East. This is directly across the street from the Skydev site for the Aspen Shores development. I am here to speak to you today with regards to this site. The development is part of special Policy Area 1, whereas the OLT decision was that there was a suitable mix of residential, open space, and commercial space. The density approved by the OLT was a maximum of 169 residential units and 78 hotel units with a maximum height of 5 stories. And these will be compatible with the surrounding area, the residents that live there. This designation would include improved public access and linkages to the waterfront and existing open spaces, as well as the hotel must be part of the first phase of the build. With a project of this magnitude, its design is vital to the future of our waterfront and our community character. While I support responsible development, I want to emphasize the importance of adherence to the legal and planning obligations that have already been established for this site. The community expects transparency, and that's what I'm here to ask for. The developer's legal obligations are clearly defined within the official plan, the zoning bylaw amendment Z04-21, and the site plan control agreement, also known as the SPCA. Although Bill 109, More Homes for Everyone Act, amended Section 41 of the Planning Act to add a subsection 41.4.0.1 to require council appoint an officer, employee, or agent as the authorized person for the purpose of processing the approving site plan control agreements, the SPCA. I don't know who that person is. So there's a lack of transparency there. Maybe Amy could provide me with that name. That would be great. There are some key areas where compliance to the OLT decision is paramount. The area number 1 is the environmental protections part. There's a 30-meter buffer as per the Gray Sabo Conservation Authority that has to be a setback where natural vegetation must be preserved and or restored. This is a critical legal requirement for protecting our water quality, as well as preserving our tranquil and peaceful neighborhood. My request to the council is to direct staff to proactively monitor this specific zone during all phases of construction. The site plan control agreement must explicitly distinguish this area as a restricted zone for machinery and material storage, as well as have specific clauses regarding green spaces, including installation, maintenance, and protections. We've already lost hundreds of trees because of this build, so maybe we can ensure that some are replaced. Green space allotment isn't just for us neighbors. It's for future tenants, local wildlife, and general overall health and well-being. The part 2 is public pedestrian access. The official plan vision for the Harborlands requires improved public access and linkages. A public pedestrian route to access the water must be functional, safe, and clearly allow public access, not a secondary or restricted pathway. My request to the council is that the final approved site plan control agreement be made publicly available well in advance of construction, with clear maps illustrating the dedicated and unobstructed public pedestrian access route, ensuring it is a legal right-of-way. Part 3, this is the site plan control agreement with the H1 provision. The H1 holding symbol on the property ensures no development can proceed until a detailed site plan control agreement is in place and that all conditions are met. This agreement is our primary tool for ensuring that the project aligns with the community's vision and technical requirements. My request to council is that I ask that the council ensure that the designated officer, whoever that may be, in charge of the SPCA ensures that the agreement is robust, comprehensive, and includes clear enforcement mechanisms and penalties for non-compliance. Furthermore, I feel that the public should be given the opportunity to review the final agreement and plans prior to the holding symbol being lifted and building permits being issued. Number 4, and this one's a big one. My main concern, as a mother of 2 young children, I can already imagine how the increase in traffic will negatively affect my children and their future. Car alarms at all hours of the day, speeding vehicles, making riding bikes or playing shinny hockey impossible. The increase of vehicles coming and going will drastically change the way my children and others' children will grow up. All I'm asking is that SkyDev be a good neighbor and think of the long-term impacts that this development will cause. In closing, the council's role is to ensure the established policies and legal obligations are met. By directing staff to rigorously enforce these measures, you will ensure that SkyDev development proceeds responsibly and brings the intended positive long-term benefits to our community and waterfront neighborhood. Thank you for your time and attention to this important matter.
Thank you, Danielle. I wonder, CAO Everett, if I may ask, are we able to say who the designated officer is at this time?
Just to confirm, that would be our Director of Development Services, Amy Can.
Thank you. The next speaker is Judy Prima.
I'd like to personally thank Deputy Mayor Shirley, Ebony, CAO Sean Everett, and Greg Jones, I call you Greg now, of SkyDev, for always taking the time to allow us to express our concerns and your professionalism throughout this process. I grew up in a family of first-generation immigrants where we lived with our grandmother in Parliament in Wellesley when Jamestown was first being built. I was in awe with the beauty of the modern large white towering buildings with beautiful water fountain that was intended to be built for mid-income households. Eventually, the mid-income households disappeared and social housing was introduced to continue the building out of the site. 50 years later, Jamestown is certainly not a desirable place to live. 7,000 rentals in a city with a population of 3 million represents less than 1% of Toronto's population. Not built on Lake Ontario, it's Toronto's largest rental development. 200 rentals with 3 similar looking white boxes and no beautiful fountain, being built in a population of 11,000 people, being 2% of our population, which now becomes Meaford's largest rental development. But with Meaford, it's on prime waterfront land. Greg, you may be surprised to hear that Aspen Shores was not a mistake. In fact, I believe you had it right in building a high-end waterfront condo alongside the high-end vintage hotel. There's nothing in your updated plan that looks high-end nor looks vintage. In fact, you may now be putting the municipality at risk in losing this high-end hotel. In working in the construction industry for 34 years, I had the honor of dealing with some very successful prominent builders like Marco Muzzo, who is one of Canada's richest men, Jim DeGasperis, these are all familiar, Brookfield Daniels Group. Marco told me the value is in the land. We know a builder's motto is buy and hold. I learned in my career at Brampton Brick when in the late 80s, they went public to invest $70 million into a brick plant when the market was hot, and how quickly a housing market can turn into a long, painful recession. You know what they say in the building industry, it's feast or famine. Banks came knocking on our door and a hard lesson was learned that cash really is king. If it wasn't for her owner, who was also a builder, being able to put in his own money into the company, we would not have survived the recession, enabled us to continue to grow. Builders are no different. They are house manufacturers. And in the early 90s, builders quickly learned to stop building inventory in an effort to preserve their cash. I've shared with you some of the successful builders I met, but now it's time to share with you some of the builders that have failed. Bramalea was one of the first large builders to collapse in the early 90s with $790 million worth of assets, followed by Olympia York, who filed bankruptcy and it owed over $20 billion. The ripple effect this has on all the trades and suppliers already struggling to survive further created a domino effect in creating more bankruptcies. I do not want to see any builder go bankrupt. It hurts everyone, the builder, the trades, the suppliers, the community, and most importantly, people's livelihood. So here we are again in a housing slump, something beyond any of our control, and history repeats itself. Reed's Heritage Rental Properties, a prominent builder in Guelph, just this year claimed bankruptcy. While looking at your slides, I see huge assets. They are slow and difficult to sell if you need to liquidate to get cash. And I know it's costing SkyDev millions of dollars. Unless you have an endless amount of money, which you may have, I see a lot of risk. I'm not suggesting SkyDev is having financial difficulties. 187 rental units in Collingwood, 712 in Owen Sound are actively under construction, investing millions of dollars in our neighboring communities. With potential high vacancies, this can further delay your investors' ROI. I'm not telling SkyDev how they should run their business. I'm simply sharing my 34 years of experience in working with builders. I truly want SkyDev to continue and to be successful. My ask, Greg, is to please put a pause on your updated plan in bringing 200 rental units into our community. You're already bringing close to 1,000 rentals into our region. I know SkyDev bought the land 5 years ago, and we sincerely appreciate that SkyDev invested a substantial amount of money in the remediation work on this project. I trust with selling the hotel land that you've been able to recoup some of your investment. Is it possible for this particular site, which is small in scope in comparison to your other sites, if Aspen Shores can be the one project for SkyDev, to consider applying the successful builder's model with land, buy, and hold, and pause investing millions of dollars in construction on more rentals in the region for the sake of adding one additional slide to your portfolio? And in considering perhaps not taking the risk on this project, 8 million is better than 80 million, and that may result in potential high vacancy rates. If you do not see value to buy and hold in Meaford, perhaps there could be future value in selling just the land and greater value in selling the land with development approvals already in place for someone else to build the development that this parcel of land truly deserves. When the market comes back, and it will, there is potential for SkyDev to feast on the Aspen Shore site as preliminarily approved by the municipality in 2024 without the pickleball courts and the fenced-in dog park. You have all done the hard groundwork, and the marketing creative work is in place for SkyDev to truly have a successful project when the market starts to turn. You have other options to consider before pulling the trigger to fast track a 200-unit rental project based on the current slowdown in the market. Builders learned the hard way in the early 90s to preserve cash in a slowing market by not building inventory. Yet even today, I continue to see builders like Reed's repeat the same mistake. My ask today is bigger than removing the Walmart parking lot across the street from me, bigger than putting back your berm with several layers of coniferous trees, and bigger than upgrading your facade to better suit vintage hotels and becoming a tourist hub with a sustainable, natural-looking stone that better blends into the Georgian Bay's natural environment. My ask today is for SkyDev to pause and reset, minimize your risk, and reconsider your decision on the updated plan in building inventory in an uncertain economic environment. My ask today to council and staff is to be patient with SkyDev. Do not push any builder to deplete their cash flow when we are in a slow economy. An empty waterfront lot, knowing it will be developed as it was originally intended to be developed in the future, is better than a poorly built mini Jamestown in Meaford. Please, let's build for the long term. Let's keep our focus on what truly will benefit SkyDev investors, the municipality, and what will benefit our community, being us, your humble, hardworking neighbors. My new slogan was going to be playground and parks and not parking lot narcs. But so anyways, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Greg Bars.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Greg Barge, and I'm living at Boucher 217. And I would like to say a few words on that project. And Mr. Jones, I came to Canada from East Europe, and I was born and raised in that square prefab apartment buildings. Anytime I'm going back home, I see them still standing there ugly like 50 years ago. So I would like to tell you, I live in that buildings, they are not nice. What we have here, we have the best place, the best location in Meaford. That lot is the best what Meaford has it, okay? There's no better real estate spot what is right now in Meaford. What I'm asking, especially Mr. Jones, because he's the boss, he's the man, okay, no question. How do you want to be remembered in 100 years? All of you, all of us. 2,000 years ago, the Colosseum in Rome was built. It was built by Vespasian. Everybody knows that. Acropolis in Greece was built 2,500 years ago by Pericles. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. After 2,500 years, who built the great building? What I'm asking, especially Mr. John, how do you want to be remembered in 100 years? The best builder, the greatest builder in Meaford, which you can build there something significant in that spot, or just another builder who make a few $1,000,000, which probably the grandchildren are gonna blow up anyway. But it's today's life. That's what I would like to tell. How do you want to be remembered? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bars. And finally, Susan Johnson.
Oh, good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, council members, staff, SkyDev representatives, Greg, and Meaford residents. My name is Susan Johnson. I'm here today to make comments on the latest iteration of the SkyDev development proposal. Notwithstanding the provincial government's Bill 109 that has removed council's ability to make decisions on site plan approvals, it is important to provide input to the greater community and to the company making the proposal. As SkyDev representatives are at this meeting, I would like to particularly address our concerns to the company. I looked at what does Meaford official plan state. In urban area policies, it says the provision of direct, safe, convenient, and attractive interior pedestrian access through developments will be facilitated through infrastructure development and as a condition of new development. Safety is highlighted. There is a reason that the official plan stresses safe pedestrian access through developments so that people presence will keep the areas safe. One of the main concerns with the latest iteration of the SkyDev proposal is safety. What do we mean by that? This proposal presents an opportunity for crime, possesses a threat in terms of major emergency in and out, and has great environmental and social implications. In previous SkyDev proposals, the parking areas were integrated with green space, which would encourage pedestrians and recreational users. This iteration shows a large increase in apartment units, having removed condominium buildings, resulting in increased vehicles. The image shows a sprawling parking lot, which would be devoid of pedestrian activity and people enjoying the space. It is well documented that this type of area could facilitate drug trafficking, car theft, and other types of crime. Meaford is not immune to drugs and drug trafficking, as shown by Johnson Beach, which is already a favorite place for drug deals. This large parking area by the shore would be an ideal place for criminals to do their work without oversight. Too many cars. It goes without saying that this number of cars, approximately 200 for the apartment units and 78 for the hotel, with only 2 narrow streets in and out, is a recipe for disaster. At the very least, congestion would be a huge issue, and at the very most, in emergency situations, there could be mayhem. This compounds the safety issues with this plan. It is essential that the proposal be reviewed by emergency services. Also, environmental and social implications. This disproportionate allocation of urban lands to parking rather than green space has profound environmental and social implications. Green spaces like parks are not just areas for recreation and beauty, they play crucial roles in improving air quality, reducing urban heat islands, and enhancing biodiversity. In contrast, vast parking lots contribute significantly to environmental degradation, including heat retention and pollution. A more immediate concern relates to the two large ponds that measure over 300 feet in length, which have accumulated on the lands. The Ministry of the Environment has not given approval to this point to drain the lands to the municipal system. I'll just repeat that. To drain the land to the municipal system. This begs the questions. Is there still a toxicity problem with these waters? Why would this potentially polluted water be added to the municipal water system? In closing, I'm standing here today to express our grave concerns about the recent iteration of the SkyDev development proposal. We're asking you to consider what is stated in Meaford's official plan in order to preserve the values which make Meaford a good place to live safely from every perspective. Unfortunately, the SkyDev proposal is the antithesis of Meaford's values and constitutes a real threat to residents' safety. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes the public portion of the meeting today, except for any public questions. Would you like to speak, Mr. Jones?
Your worship, may I have an opportunity to respond to some of those, or is it not appropriate at this time?
I'm going to have to defer to our clerk. This is not really a decision-making meeting as far as council is concerned. It is for you, but it isn't for us.
Your worship, merely to inform some of the points made and where we're at in the process legally, as well as our intentions.
Thank you very much. So I didn't quite hear the end of that. I guess you're still wanting to speak.
Oh, your worship, requesting the ability to respond to those comments, questions.
I'm going to defer to our clerk.
Thank you. My suggestion at this time is that we would recommend that individual residents are in touch directly so that you can correspond outside of this public process so the council agenda can proceed.
I'm happy to give you my personal cell phone number and business card.
Okay.
Your worship, just from a legal perspective, the environmental 30-meter buffer was conveyed to the municipality. It is now municipal property, so it's not ours to use. I won't continue because apparently it wasn't appropriate, but I'll address the concerns directly. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you again, everyone, for your participation. Extremely important, and but council is bound by the Municipal Act, and we're going to move on here. Council inquiries. Deputy Mayor Keaveney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and just one today for Acting Director Freeze. And I know this has come up before, but the last time we talked about the speed monitors that had been ordered for Bogner, we thought they might be in October. Is there any update on the arrival of those and when they might be installed?
Yes, thank you, through your worship. Yes, we've been in good communications with the county. Everything's good to go. We've made arrangements with the county also that municipal staff will install the signs. We've got to go ahead through finance to purchase the signs. That has been completed, and we're just waiting for the ETA for them to show up. We're still anticipating within the next few weeks to get them up. Yeah.
Any other questions from council? Then we'll move on to the consent agenda. And I'm wondering how you would like to deal with this, council. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 items on the agenda. We can take these as one, or you can decide to call some out for further discussion. Councillor Ennis.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, for as stated earlier, for 9.1C, I'll have to step out. So,
Oh yes, okay.
if that could be separated, and I'd also like to ask a couple of questions about 9.1B as well, if that could be separated.
9.1B.
The beautiful Jark pedestrian.
Okay.
Joe Park pedestrian bridge.
Yeah. Okay. So anyone else have any input on that? So let us take the others and vote on them. And I'm going to read them to you in terms of, so you know what we're voting on here. The first, item A, the recommendation is that Council of the Municipality of Meaford, 1, support in principle corporate organizational structure as attached, and 2, support the implementation of this corporate structure through the 2026 draft budget, draft municipal budget with the organizational structure on the basis of a 3-year phase-in implementation plan. The item C, the recommendation is that Council of the Municipality of Meaford, 1, approve option A presented in this report as the, oh, we're pulling that out separately. Sorry. So the next one is the recommendation that Council of the Municipality of Meaford direct staff to proceed with the closure dates for the remaining dates of 2025 and 2026 as outlined in Report CAO 2025-32, Office and Facility Closure Dates 2025 through 2026, which outlines the closure of the municipal office. Item E is the recommendation be it resolved that bylaw 2025-63, being a bylaw to adapt or adopt a municipal alcohol risk management policy for the municipality of Meaford, be taken as read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. And item F, the recommendation is that Council of the Municipality of Meaford, 1, direct staff to develop a municipally significant event policy, and 2, direct staff to include a $100 fee for a municipally significant event application in the 2026 fees and charges bylaw. So I need a mover and a seconder for these items, Councillor Uhrig and Councillor Forder. Is there any discussion at all? All in favor? And those are passed unanimously. And we will come back to the first, which is the recommendation on Beautiful Joe Park. Recommended that Council of the Municipality of Meaford approve the pre-approval of the 2026 Beautiful Joe Pedestrian Bridge Capital Project as outlined in this report. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Deputy Mayor and Councillor Uhrig. Thank you. Discussion on this? Councillor Ennis?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I apologize for kind of just diving into this. I know that a lot of people around this table and in the community are very interested in this project. But when I was reviewing the report in the agenda, I also looked at as many news articles as I could find, some questions around the community to try and understand everything. And I feel that for me to vote on this, I just would like some sort of general clarification on the whys supporting this project. So I thought it would be helpful if I just sort of laid out where my understanding is at so that we don't kind of answer things that I've maybe already got. So, so I understand the cultural value of this project. I grew up in the Meadowvale Streetsville part of Mississauga. I went to Streetsville Secondary School, and if you're not familiar with Mississauga, in Streetsville there is a park that is similar to Beautiful Joe, a part of like the heart and soul of that half of Mississauga, the whole city. There is the Credit River that flows through, a steep incline down into the Credit River Valley. There is a lovely vehicle-capable pedestrian bridge that crosses the river onto a small island in the fork of the river that is often used as a fairground and hosts much of the famous Bread and Honey Festival. And I'm very familiar with the embankment on that side of the river because when I played football for practice, we'd have to run up it all the time, and we ran down the built road that went down into that part of the valley. So I know, having grown up in an area like that, what that added to the community and what that, the beauty of it. A lot of people fish there, take pictures. It's a very popular area. I understand similarly with the embankment that accessibility to Beautiful Joe is an issue, that the slope going in is pretty treacherous, and that developing Legion Park into a more accessible parking lot that would allow you to access the park would be able to help with that. I also understand that this is very well supported from the community and by some members on council, as I understand it. And it has been an ongoing conversation for quite a while. And demonstrating the support in the community, there's $130,000 of demonstrated interest and desire for it. And I appreciate and respect this effort by the Beautiful Joe Heritage Society. And as a volunteer on the neighboring Trout Hollow Trail, we've thought a lot about that volunteering effort and how we might be able to, do something similar. But all this said, I'm looking at the fact that the municipality ultimately would have to contribute from, as I understand it, over $250,000 for this whole project. And as I'm looking at the park, I can't imagine that regrading the entrance or redesigning the entrance would cost that much. So perhaps some comment there would be very helpful to me. But if linkages to Legion Park are truly desired, there's the Edmund Street Bridge sort of right there. That could be, have rails installed on it. I know it's a pretty tight fit if you want to watch the fish and things like that. But other great amenities can be installed in that park, like a dog park in Beautiful Joe, I think would be very fitting. But a lot of things can happen there. And as I look at other items that we've already voted on, we're looking at $280,000 to resurface what is arguably the most important road in the municipality on Sykes. And we're going to be applying for funding to do that, up to 90% of the cost. And I don't know, I'm just having trouble sort of understanding why we would invest $250,000 when the maintenance of the most important road in the municipality is a fraction of that cost. And the application to receive funding has already been turned down by the province, as far as I understand. So any explanation from staff or other members of council that would help me sort of guide my decision-making would be much appreciated.
CAO Everett.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and great questions, Councillor Ennis. This is a project that has, as you identified, had lots of different reports and stories about. This report was brought forward by myself as a result of discussions with the Beautiful Joe representatives after or at the time getting very close to their fundraising amount of $130,000. And since penning this report, happy to say that they have reached that. This project was also included in the most recent municipal development development charge review study. So there is money in this in that DC. So we are collecting development charges for this project. As far as the overall cost of the project, at a high level, when we look at Legion Park, the idea of putting washroom facilities on that park, you've outlined the property very well. It is in a bit of a bowl. So bringing that elevation back up would also include the requirement of storm drains. So there's quite a bit of engineering that would be required, not only from a sanitary perspective, but a storm perspective. And looking at the overall cost of the project, that the $130,000 that was identified by the Beautiful Joe group, they made it abundantly clear, and I think they've always made it very clear that the fundraising that they were looking at was the provision of the bridge, not the installation of the bridge. So when you factor in the cost of upgrading Legion Park, as well as the actual cost of installation of the bridge, that's how you get up to that $1 million. And I would say even the $1 million is, we'll know more once we do the hydrological study to figure out just exactly what we're dealing with. The suggestion is we would need to also do an archaeological survey on Legion Park to make sure that there's no concerns there. So it's sort of a long-winded answer to your question. I would say the big push was from a community perspective. This was deemed as being an important project. This was a housekeeping report for myself to get this project moving forward, or if it was not going to move forward, to be able to communicate back with the Beautiful Joe Historical Society to take a look at options. I think having that line of communications with Beautiful Joe Historical Society has been a great experience for myself. And after, council endorsing a fundraising program for the bridge, it was really just getting this report back on and getting this project back into the discussion and looking at the pre-approval of 2026 budget, moving this project, in particular, the engineering aspect of it, moving it forward to understand better what we are actually dealing with for this project. Hopefully that's helpful.
Anyone else? Councillor Greenfield?
Thanks, Your Worship. If I may just like to comment on this project. It's been ongoing. I look at this as kind of a three-prong advantage by having this bridge there. First of all, talk about accessibility, and I don't want anybody to think that everyone in our municipality is touched by some kind of physical accessibility. There are some people though who are in wheelchairs, who have to use canes, who have to use walkers, and excuse me, even small children who are just getting into the walking thing. Right now, that park is a very difficult challenge for them, and we are trying to be as diverse as possible in our municipality and offering the same advantages to one and all. And right now, we cannot do that at Beautiful Joe. Another aspect is parking. The parking lot currently in Beautiful Joe is quite small. Certainly, if you take any vehicle down there that's much larger than a full-size SUV, it's difficult, especially on a busy day. When there is some kind of activity down there, a special activity, or just a real nice day in the summer or the fall when people want to get down there, and parking is difficult. Buses are not impossible, but they're a problem. It would be quite an advantage if we had some additional parking over in the Legion Park on the north side of the river, and I think that's part of this parcel is getting more parking space. I guess I just want to throw in on a bit of a historical note, back in the 1890s, there was a walking bridge across the Big Head River. It was a swing bridge. I understand the railing on it was a piece of number 9 wire strung around one side, which really wasn't all that adequate. But the history is there. We had a bridge across that river, just below where the current bridge is. So it's a lot of money. It's a huge investment, but again, I think it is. I look at it as more of an investment for the future. We've heard a few minutes ago about investing in the future, and I think this one is well worthwhile. Thank you.
Councillor Bell?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I think it's been well stated that the group themselves at Beautiful Joe, they've got their heart and soul involved in fundraising, and it's still ongoing. The desire, I think, of council is that we would like to see this. I think, the comments about its positivity and so on, I think that they're pretty sound. But my concern today is if we raise our hand to support this, and I think we will probably raise our hand to support this, This Mr. CAO, you have said that there will be costings, and they are solid comments that you rendered about hydrological study, archaeology, and ultimately, we're going to be looking at the actual real numbers when someone is actually asked, can you give us a number what it's really going to cost? So with what's before us here, saying to the taxes of 50,000 2 times, 2 different years, what is it that if we raise our hand and say we'd like to see this bridge move forward, how is it within the 2026 budget? We are going to be showing numbers that we're either going to have to analyze and trim or bolster to do this. What does it mean when we raise our hand today and we find that in the future, this $1 million might be the starting point? Can we have a little comment on that, please, Mr. CAO?
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Bell. Council will have the opportunity to have a couple of touch points through this process. Ultimately, we want to get the studies done first. I think then once we have the studies done, that will start determining actually what the span of the bridge is required. Because right now we look at the river and say, okay, well, it's X amount of meters. Depending on what those studies provide, that will actually determine how far back on the land do we actually have to put the platforms, and then also tying it in, get a good idea of what would actually be needed to actually increase the elevation of Legion. So there will be the engineering that will then inform the next phase. If council, if we found that that pricing of $1 million was adequate or inadequate, my promise to this council would be you will be getting that information before we go to tender. So there will be a point where when we have more detailed information and whether or not this is a $600,000 project or a $1.5 million project, you'll be seeing that prior to any tender being submitted, understanding that even after the tender, you know, that price may be increased or decreased depending on the costing. But this report doesn't give us the full, yes, build a bridge and do a park. There will be touch points in between.
Councillor Yurick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Eric, for raising it. I as well at the last council meeting asked about the total cost, because I was also a little surprised that it was as big as it was. But after hearing the explanations and knowing the desires, I have no problem with kind of moving forward with this on CAO Everett's stipulations of literally transparency through the process. My concern is culturally. I mean, yeah, I totally understand your comment about the roads. And the reality is with over 400 kilometers of roads in the municipality, if we were to say we're not going to do things because we're just going to do roads, then we will never do a park. So that's the sad reality. And there are long-term strategies in place. There's one for the harbor. There is one for Legion Park. There's all these things. The reality of this one is probably long overdue, because as opposed to Memorial Beach, which is totally accessible, as Councillor Greenfield's pointed about accessibility issues. The interesting thing about Beautiful Joe is culturally, we can't get much more significant than that. It is literally what we're known for around the world. And yet if people came here, they'd have difficulty visiting it. So for me to be able to say, are we able to try and do that, whether it's spending money over 5, 6, and 7 to try and make that happen? I think we have a responsibility to parks and rec as much as we do to roads to make sure that our inhabitants as well as our visitors are able to enjoy the amenities that should be available. That one realistically is not. So that's why I'm supporting this, even though it is more money than I hoped it was going to be. But I am fully support making that a fully accessible viable. I mean, when you look at the Twin Towers connection we have down there, these are all things that kind of add to the fabric of our community, and yet many people cannot even participate. So I just think this is something that's very important, just because of its lack of availability now.
Anyone else wish to speak on this? I'm just going to then say that beautiful Joe Park. Sorry, oh, I didn't see your hand. Go for it.
Could I just ask one more question?
Yep.
Yes, this me through you to our CAO, Mr. Everett. Back a few years ago, when I used to work at George and Pink's on the beginner's ramp, there was talk about putting in the best I can describe it is a mobile ramp from down in the loading area up to the top. It was 600 feet. I'm sure you're familiar with the ramp that they have down at the Blue for in the beginners area. I just wonder. I mean, if it just comes down to accessibility, like a bridge is much more romantic, but I just wonder if it might be worthwhile pricing out a ramp. It doesn't solve the parking problems, and it's not that historical, but it could maybe solve the accessibility problems for those with problems. So I just wonder if it's worthwhile inquiring about something like that.
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Greenfield, at this point, everything's worthwhile looking, because at the end of the day, the accessibility aspect is critically important. I know even working with the Bruce or the Beautiful Joe Historic Society, you know, there is the access to the point, to the park, to the, I'm going to say to the northwest. That is a great access point that with some additional work could actually be accessible to. So looking at this from a holistic improvement, enhancement to Beautiful Joe with that mindset of accessibility, it's not just making it accessible from one point of the park, it's trying to make it accessible from all points of access into the park.
And just to sum up, I'm going to say that Beautiful Joe Park is a global draw to Meaford. If we don't deliver now, we're really saying to the donors and to the many volunteers, we don't appreciate your efforts. Would we lose the development funding? Can it be reallocated, or will it be actually part of our problem of not spending our development fees?
Through Mr. Mayor, so from a development charge perspective, council has the opportunity to transfer funds to a different project. However, looking at our DC study, there are some projects that you'll see them in the 2026 budget, starting to focus on money that we have collected or will be collecting for specific projects. These have to be growth related projects to utilize development charges. So I feel comfortable that we wouldn't lose them if we looked at transferring those. However, the development community does have the opportunity to challenge that of where those funds would be transferred to. So.
And my final point is, it's not $1 million for Beautiful Joe Park. This is a 2-for-1 special where we're going to get some of the development to the early stages of Legion Park accomplished at the same time. And Legion Park actually ties in, as we've discussed before, to the Trowbridge Street rebuilding project. So, you know, we will be spending money to truck fill somewhere else, which could go into Legion Park at this time. So, and I'll be voting for it. Thank you. You ready for the vote? All in favor? Thank you. And that is carried unanimously, which is appreciated. Thank you. I know that the donors and volunteers will appreciate it. So now we have the last one on the agenda here. And that has to do with the land acknowledgement. And if you would like to exit at this point, that's the time. So this item, the recommendation is to approve option A presented in this report as the continued use of the current official land acknowledgement for the municipality of Meaford. And 2, direct staff to develop a council and staff training program that supports the meaningful and thoughtful understanding of truth and reconciliation, that supports the relationships with our Indigenous communities and includes a review of the current official land acknowledgement policy. Can I have a mover and seconder, Councillor Forder and Councillor Greenfield? Thank you. Discussion on this. Go ahead, Councillor Forder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, just a quick one. At the bottom of the report under consultation and communications, it does list Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, but of course in our land acknowledgement, we are recognizing others as well. So I just want to know, was there any consultation with any of the other First Nations communities other than Saugeen Ojibwe Nation?
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Forder, at this point, it was limited to Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. However, I do know that the training that we are looking at will do a full breadth of the different Indigenous groups that are within our area.
And any other questions or comments? Are you ready to vote? All in favor? And again, that is carried unanimously. Thank you. And maybe we'll call Councillor back in. Yeah, thank you. That's great. Okay, next items for consideration, and the first recommendation is be it resolved that bylaw 2025-64, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 60-2009 for the lands known municipally as 121 Eagle Ridge Drive, be taken as read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Mover and a seconder, Councillor Bell and Councillor Greenfield. Thank you. Discussion? Councillor Greenfield.
Your Worship, through you to Ms. Can, our Director of Planning. If I'm interpreting this map correctly, it looks to me as if the building itself is still on the higher ledge. It's only the stairway down towards the waterfront that could be in that high water zone. Am I reading this properly?
Your Worship, Mr. Kelly is the planner assigned to this file, so I'll defer to him on this question.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So yeah, generally speaking, the only area that's really in the steep slope is that stairs, but the setback is designed to be within a certain distance of the slope, so the house is within that general setback, which is why this has to be changed as part of the development envelope.
Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns? Then I'll call the vote. All in favor? And again, that is passed unanimously. The next item is the recommendation that Council of the Municipality of Meaford approve the submission of the 2026/27 MTO Connecting Links Program application for the Syke Street Road resurfacing project. Mover and a seconder for this, Councillor Bell and Councillor Forder. Discussion, questions, Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the obvious question, what if we don't get the grant? And do we just do another patch job and try again next year?
Through your worship, this project is keeping the road in good condition, so there isn't any immediate need for the work to happen for us to still be able to utilize the road. We want obviously all of our infrastructure to have the longevity that it can to reduce the overall life costs of it. And so just like last time, if we aren't successful this time, we'll relook at the project and resubmit for what we think we need on Syke Street in following years. We weren't successful in 2023 when we submitted last time for the work, but we were told it was a strong project, and the funding envelope that the MTO has increased for the Connecting Link funding. So we hope we'll be successful this time. But if not, again, we'll review it as following budgets and determine what makes sense then.
Councillor Forder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, I guess this would be to Tori. How long after the application deadline will we receive approval or denial of this? Thank you.
Through your worship, if I recall correctly, I think it identifies either March or April is when we would find out. However, sometimes that gets pushed just depending. We would look obviously at getting the tender out as in that similar time period as soon as we find out so that we can secure a contractor and then get going as soon as the good weather is available.
Councillor Ennis?
Thank you, through your worship. I was just wondering, I'm new to the, I can't remember exactly what the acronym stands for, but the PCI, like the PC index. So if, let's say, like every year, how many points get lost approximately? Like, what does that look like?
So it depends. It depends, I guess, on the use of the road, depends on what winters we see. We do get the pavement condition index done on a 3-year basis. And we sometimes actually see that there's no change in PCI, and sometimes there is a significant change. We did go out and review these sections just in the past couple weeks as we were developing this report to ensure that we were still happy with the road resurfacing that we were identifying and that we didn't want to do something more in those locations. And we were happy with the pavement condition index that we had identified in 2023. But we are looking at doing that scan again in 2026. So if this isn't successful, we would have new numbers and that might change what our application looks like.
Councillor Bell?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So anytime council is presented with upper level money, I think everyone here today will raise their hand and support this to get this happening, because we'll take that money and say thank you and we would like even more. But here's one. How? Maybe this is going to go to Mr. Freeze, maybe the CAO. How can we get the second concession listed as a connecting link? Because I would like to get 90% funding to make some changes, at least on that main concession. What is the definition of the connecting link and why it qualifies basically the town limits?
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Bell. So the connecting link is a very clearly defined section of the MTO Highway 26 corridor. That is an agreement that the municipality has. And for those who are interested, if you're driving the corridor and you see the little sign that says CL, that is the area within the municipality that the connecting link falls within. I can say that over the last probably 3 or 4 years in particular, MTO has been more open to expanding the connecting link. However, there is a cost to that connecting link as well. So even though that we can expand the connecting link with MTO approval, that additional kilometers would be a cost to us as well. So there's been lots of discussions, I can tell you, in the region about expanding connecting links. Because as development takes place, the settlement area also is expanding within municipalities. So that is always an option of looking at going to the MTO to see whether or not there would be the willingness to consider any expansions to that connecting link. Connecting link funding is I know the municipality has been successful in the past, in particular around bridges within the connecting link. But I would also say that this project that's being proposed, we're in desperate need of some improvements within the connecting link for sure. Hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, there's lots of questions. I guess some do. Go ahead, Councillor Greenfield.
in section two, so I'm wondering when the bid could be added to this, when the, but, I think the first one is that, a 2026 number.
Through your worship. So yes, we have updated all the numbers, and as you can see, only $17,310 will be funded through the 2026 tax supported budget. So that's the additional funding, and that 10% will need to meet the 2026 costing that we have anticipated based on the pricing that we saw for our 2025 projects. With regards to any uneven areas around our maintenance holes, we will be correcting all of the areas that are within the sections being rehabilitated. The three identified, there's actually concerns within the maintenance holes themselves causing the problem. And so not only will the road surface be corrected around them, but the structures themselves need to be reconstructed. And as we have identified, they are all storm sewer structures. They're actually eligible for the 90% funding as well. Whereas you've seen on other projects we've done, the water and wastewater is our cost to bear. So all of the work that we've identified will be covered in that 90% grant funding if we are successful.
Thanks for explaining that. Thank you.
Did you have a second question? No, okay. Deputy Mayor, you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just curious to know, it said no engineering is required in the report. Is that work already completed? Was that done in 2023 with the last application?
So for this type of work, we never complete engineering work. It is pretty typical. We typically go straight to tender. So we'll be using the tender documents that we typically use and have found great success in. For the maintenance hole work specifically, it's fairly straightforward. They would just need to essentially take out the top portion that's there and put in new rings. So no, there's nothing out of the ordinary. It's just a replacement of what's already there.
It's probably in there, but can I ask, where does this project start, starting at the south end of Meaford, and where does it end at the north end?
Let me pull up a map and I can tell you exactly where it starts and ends. So there are a couple of different chunks that aren't included because we have recently reconstructed those sections, but we are essentially touching most of the connecting links. So we will be starting at Ford Avenue. There's a section between Bayfield Street and Collingwood Street where the reconstruction recently occurred within the past 5 years that we won't have any work completed on. And then from Collingwood Street all the way to McKibben Drive is where it will end. At this point, there is a section from there to where the MTO sand depot is that is also connecting link, but there isn't a need for that section either.
So there, like, people are steering into the incoming traffic lane and whipping around back into their own lane to avoid the potholes and bumpiness at Edwin Street and the next two intersections, like between there and Boucher Street. That whole section is in dreadful condition. And as I say, people are actually they're either going onto the boulevard to avoid hitting these bumps, or they're going out into the other lane of traffic and pulling back in, and you just stand there and watch it every day. So I hope this is going to get done soon, because otherwise it's a real problem as far as I can see.
Through your worship, as part of this grant funding, if we are not successful, I agree there are those are mainly due to those failing maintenance holes. We can definitely look at doing that work in 2026 with the funding that will be a part of that 2026 budget. That would be that 10%. So we can utilize some of that if we do want to proceed and then reevaluate in the future. So there's definitely opportunity for us to move in a different direction if we're not successful, and we can definitely have that conversation.
That's good to hear. Thank you. Are you ready to vote on this? All in favor? Thank you very much. It's carried. The next recommendation, be it resolved that bylaw 2025-65, being a bylaw to appoint a deputy clerk for the municipality of Meaford, be taken as read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Mover and a seconder, Councillor Greenfield and Councillor Urick. Thank you. And I'm sure there's no discussion about this. We're very glad to have this role filled. And anyone have anything to say here? If not, let's vote. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. And congratulations, Ms. Penner. Now, the next one is recommendation be it resolved that bylaw 2025-66, being a bylaw to appoint a municipal law enforcement officer for the municipality of Meaford, be taken as read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Mover and seconder, Councillor Forder and Deputy Mayor Keaveney. Any discussion here? All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. And that brings us around to a motion to move into committee of the whole at 3:41 p.m. Mover and seconder. Yeah, this is, I noticed that at 1 o'clock when we started. Nobody has changed the clock, so. Mover and seconder to go into committee of the whole. It's moved by Councillor Urick, seconded by Deputy Mayor Keaveney. Thank you. And first item here is, all in favor? Yes. Well, I thought we were. Yes, Councillor Urick has to recuse himself in this case. The recommendation is that Committee of the Whole recommend Council of the Municipality of Meaford, 1, approve the Meaford Cultural Foundation Facility Use Agreement that is specific to the annual Meaford International Film Festival as presented, and 2, approve use of the proposed 35% subsidy of the community rate to the Meaford Cultural Foundation as proposed by staff and in consultation with the Meaford Cultural Foundation. Mover and seconder, Councillor Greenfield and Deputy Mayor, that Councillor Ennis, good. Discussion on this. Councillor Ennis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As I was reading this, there was I think it was earlier on, the alcohol policy kind of got me thinking of this concept of like municipal significance. And I was thinking about MIF, and I was thinking about things like Christmas on the Bay, and other events that we have like that. And I was wondering if there would be room to sort of substantiate a process for where we can.
I think, Councillor Ennis, that this report is strictly dealing with the support that the communities rate and what kind of a subsidy we're willing to offer in connection with MIF. That's
right. Yeah, no, and I was just wondering if, like, for events like that, to have agreements like this, maybe in a future discussion, to sort of create like a system by which we sort of gauge how significant an event is, like MIF or others, so that we could then pursue agreements like this, or they could.
I think that is,
pursue
and I'll
agreements like
turn it
this.
over to CAO Everett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and to Councillor Ennis. So the previous report that I brought forward also identified looking at different uses and different events and trying to get to a point where, in particular around the subsidy, gets applied. And it's the intention that once we get through this process, I would like to be able to move forward and look at those other events that meet a certain criteria, to then be able to simply apply the subsidy to that, ultimately having council endorse and approve that subsidy, just so we take the guesswork out of these types of events. So that is the ultimate goal and it was determined that to get through this one first, just to see how that negotiation, now that we have an agreement template, I think it's something that we could move forward in the future with.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Keaveney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm looking at the point on page 3 that talks about the addition of a schedule that identifies a capital project, in this case that MCF would undertake. So is that going to be potentially a requirement with other local groups who might qualify for this 35% subsidy?
Through Mr. Mayor, to Deputy Mayor Keaveney, it is something that was a consideration that, I put in there just with other groups could be in that same position where if they're ultimately a lot of these, if not all of them, will be focused around not-for-profit organizations that we are entering into agreements with. And ultimately, it would be nice to be able to tie some potential projects to say, through the use, you'll get subsidized. However, is there the business case that you could then provide funding to a municipal project? I think it's the discussion that I had with the Meaford Cultural Foundation. They were very willing to do that, and I think it sets the precedent that other agreements could have that same tie into helping fund future capital projects.
Councillor Forder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you, not a question, but more of a general comment. I was just really pleased to see that the municipality was stepping up with regards to being a main sponsor of MIF and then also hosting one of the dinners. I think that really shows, demonstrating through action, that the municipality is invested in supporting, large community events like MIF. So I just wanted to say bravo for you guys for throwing that in as part of the terms. I think that's wonderful. Thank you.
Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So you can support what the work's been done to get this document before us today. So when we get into our budget, we're going to be talking about fees and charges. We have to do that. It's what we do. So do we have a policy that is really adequate to address these specific requests? Because when other groups see that, this great group, this endeavor that is done, they will take a look and say, well, they got a break. Somebody else will say, well, they got a break. Why not us? What's our policy, and how do we make these clean defining things about who gets it, who may qualify, or does it always come back to council? Which we've had that discussion, and we don't really want to have to do that all the time. My question is on policy, and how good is it, or do we need to amend it?
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Bell, we definitely have to amend it. And we have to be able to clearly identify what the criteria is for those individual groups that would qualify for any subsidy. That being said, council is the lone body that can waive fees, can reduce fees. Staff cannot do that. We have the approved fees and charges bylaw that we will go through annually. And council are the only body that can provide those approvals to waive or reduce. But that being said, having the policy that clearly identifies what groups are eligible for that subsidy going into that policy is the next step. And hopefully getting that done relatively soon to be able to make that, fair for the municipality, but also fair for the organizers, because when they're doing their business planning for their events, they'll know whether or not they would meet that criteria or not.
Another supplementary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that answer very much, because when we get into the budget and then we give a break, as it were, we have affected the budget that we've tried to put in place. So we say the expectations for the budget is to glean so much money, and then it's cut. We've just stepped back from the budget that we have just put in place. So I really appreciate you're going to bring this forward in the future. I look forward to reading that report.
Other questions? Councillor Greenfield.
Thanks, Your Worship. Through you to Mr. Everett, I guess. It talks about the provision of office space for the Cultural Foundation. I think there's 390 square feet designated. Now that's at normal operating hours, which I'm not sure if that's 9 to 5 at the hall or anything on above normal operating hours. There has to be a municipal staff member present. Like the International Film Festival was usually just getting underway at 5 and going, and I don't know if there would be any need at some time for getting into their office situation to check something or whatever. I'm just wondering how does that happen, or how could it work if there was need?
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Greenfield. So if it was during the film festival, we will have staff there anyways. So I would say when we talk about normal business hours, those are, let's say Meaford Hall has really no normal business hours. We have staff there when there are events, and we are available. The key thing is when people are in the building, we want to make sure staff are in the building. So when we went through this negotiation, there was I don't see any issue, nor did the representatives from the film or the Cultural Foundation have any issues with this as well. I think it's something that has always been in place, and they've been able to navigate those requirements with ease.
You ready to vote on this? All in favor? That is unanimous. Again, thank you very much. Maybe you would, right, thanks. Next item. The recommendation is that Committee of the Whole recommend Council of the Municipality of Meaford, 1, direct staff to continue to implement immediate retrofits to the existing 2 fountains where possible, including enhancements to surrounding landscaping features. This is regarding Lakeview Cemetery. And 2, direct staff to bring forward a fulsome Lakeview Cemetery business plan that clearly outlines a 10-year capital plan and the supporting operational resourcing and funding needs through the 2026 proposed budget deliberations. Mover and a seconder for this, moved by Councillor Forder and seconded by Councillor Bell. Discussion on this? Questions? Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm surprised that the rest of my fellow councilors didn't put their hands up to be the mover and seconder on this, because this is a very important location, just like Beautiful Joe. This is a spot that is used by the persons and families throughout this municipality. And I can fully support the move right now to keep doing what we can do. I've been up there. I think all of us have probably taken a trip up there and took a look. The report's pretty clear. The infrastructure supporting that, the pipes, the pumps, the flow, the concrete, it all needs to be taken care of. And I can see that we need to have a 10-year capital plan. We need to know what we're going to do in the future, have a little bit of a long tooth view of this. But in the meantime, to keep this thing up there going, because when people go there, I know that when I tell folks where family members are, my reference is the big fountain, and I'm sure everybody says that. Go to the big fountain, go 2 over and then to the right. And that's where you find, you just use it as a landmark. So it's very key. And when its condition is poor, it's a poor reflection. And weather and time takes its toll. So I can support these items as they're listed, keep it going and do a 10-year plan. Thank you.
Councillor Urick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, no, I'm definitely very much in favor of supporting this. It's definitely worthwhile and long overdue. My question is so we just had kind of a cemetery plan that was presented, I guess it was 2 years ago, I believe it was now. I'm just wondering how in line with that is this? You're talking about now another 10-year plan. I just wanting to ascertain whether this is remnants of that, continuation of that, change of that.
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Urick. The plan that you refer to it would be used as sort of the base. Not looking to have a consultant do this 10-year plan. This is really more of operationalizing the base of that, the master plan, but also drilling down a bit further. The looking at the long-term use of the cemetery lands, trying to plan out how many more columbariums, the right location. I think realistically, the trend in burials are more 75% columbarium or cremation. And so with that gives us more space. However, even getting into, I know we don't necessarily do double depths that much. So just taking a look at the overall length of time that we have on that site, as well as taking a look at, the road system and making sure that we have a plan on resurfacing the road system, making sure that, the areas that we need water serviced are done. And then one of the other key things is just doing a really good job of doing a tree inventory. Because we have an awful lot of mature nearing end of useful life, that, what's the plan of removing some of those trees when they get to that point? The last thing we want is significant limbs falling on headstones and damaging headstones. So the 10-year is really just operationalizing that plan. It wasn't a bad plan. It just now it's time to take it to the next step and operationalize it.
Supplementary here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to follow up on that. So is there room in that plan? So I know there's been lots of conversation about whether making a secondary access point out the other side, because that's been talked about a long time as well. Is there an appetite for that in that 10-year plan, or is that being considered, or is that pie in the sky?
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Urick, that has to be determined through this process. It's definitely of an interest from a staff perspective for a number of reasons, but I also understand that, we have to understand the history and the reason why that access was closed in the past. It's something though, for us to clearly understand how we can use that remaining land ultimately depends as well of whether or not there is a roadway that goes through that. And quite frankly, an opportunity, that access may not even use the current roadway. Like there's some interesting things that you could do in aligning the road that maybe gets it away from where problem areas might have been, to a more usable, more manageable road. The last thing we want is to have a straight road, because that will just maybe entice some people to maybe speed along there. But there's some ways that we can do some curves that just calm the traffic down and make a very appealing entry and exit, but more so an entry as well into a cemetery when people are wanting that feel of calmness and sort of comfort. That whole entrance to the cemetery plays a role in that family's day that we want to be very respectful of.
Deputy Mayor Keaveney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And coming back to CAO Everett's last comments about the central fountain, and it does state on the bottom of page 2 of the report that staff recommend that council take this opportunity to consider potential alternative locations of the fountain infrastructure prior to committing significant funds to this project. So I'm just wondering, in your mind, does that come, if we're going to do a 10-year plan, does that kind of come first? Is that top priority?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Deputy Mayor Keaveney, it is absolutely the biggest priority because it's a significant investment into the repair. So yeah, we have to figure that out real quick before we invest a lot. And, not lost on the comments made by Councillor Bell, we have to be very mindful that it's a landmark. And it's just not as simple as moving it for a business revenue generation reason. We have to truly understand what the impacts and what the community's feelings are going to be with that. So when we talk about the potential relocation, it really is, we need to at least give the thought before making the determination if that's where it's going to stay. If it stays there, that will be with the benefit of talking to the community and understanding what the desires are.
Another question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So that being said, I'd like to come back to the recommendations and put forward an amendment to number 1, that staff continue to implement immediate retrofits to the existing entrance fountain, and where possible, including enhancement to surrounding landscaping features. So just move forward with the entrance fountain because we know it's not going to move anywhere, and allow staff to do their work and get back to us hopefully in a year or so with a plan for the central fountain.
Yeah, and if I may say, I'm pretty conflicted with this report because I can see fountain number 2, 3 years, 4 years, fountain, it'll be 10 years. It'll be 10 years. I just think we're kicking it down the can down the road, and I think that the people who wanted to invest in that on behalf of the whole community will not get that opportunity. So that's my very real concern. We paid good money for a report, and it's been sitting on the shelf. I don't. The reason I don't remember it was because it didn't say a whole lot, as far as I'm concerned. I just don't know where we're going with it. I agree with you that we need to get cracking and get a plan. The problem with the 10-year plan is that a lot of the people who are interested in seeing this fountain restored, may not be here in 10 years.
Through Mr. Mayor, just to that point, when we talk about a 10-year plan, we don't wait. We're not talking about waiting for 10 years to implement. There's a lot of pieces to cemeteries that, we have some available fundings through the Care and Maintenance Fund. The use of that money is very, very sometimes difficult to utilize. I think with the fountain, that will be the number 1 priority, and I can guarantee you in 2 years we won't be having this discussion. I will be shocked if by the end of let's say by the spring, we'll have a good understanding of what we're going to move forward with that second fountain. But I also know from a taxation perspective, we can't do everything that needs to be done there in 5 years. So trying to spread out the prioritization of it, I will tell you that for those who are interested, my background is in Parks and Recreation. Did it for a lot of years. You have a CAO now that believes that the cemetery and heritage cemeteries are the park space that require and demand the highest level of maintenance and respect. That's where we're going to get that cemetery back to. So there may be other parks that may not get as much maintenance, but the focus and the reality is those families deserve that cemetery to have that highest level of maintenance and respect. So it will not be 10 years.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So following that, then please allow me to add to the amendment that in the spring of 2026, we will see a staff report identifying options for the central fountain.
And thank you, Margaret. I see you keyboarding away there, and that is good. So when you're ready, maybe you'll tell us the motion and you're moving it, and I'll get a seconder for you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. So please correct me if I'm wrong. But the amending motion would be that the motion be amended by adding entrance after existing and removing 2, as well as adding a second clause to read, direct to staff to bring forward a report in the spring of 2026 identifying options for the central fountain. rehabilitation. Did that capture everything appropriately?
Mr. Mayor, I believe so, Margaret, but could you read the whole thing?
My apologies for the delay. So this would be an amending motion. So the amending motion is two parts. So the first part is that the motion be amended by adding entrance after existing and removing two. So that would bring the first clause. I can read what that would then change it to, which wouldn't be part of the actual wording in the motion. So it would be direct staff to continue to implement immediate retrofits to the existing entrance fountain where possible, including enhancements to surrounding landscapes. The second part of the amending motion is to direct staff to bring a report in the spring of 2026, identifying options for the central fountain relocation or rehabilitation.
And the rest of the motion follows that insertion, right?
That's correct. That would be to add another clause to the
Yes.
three-part clause. So once that's voted on, the final motion would read with three clauses, including the staff report added in.
Everybody follow that okay? Alrighty, so I need a seconder for this. Seconded by Councillor Forder. Do you wish any more discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Bell.
Mr. Mayor and to our clerk, with what's been discussed in times past, sometimes we have the ability to put it up that we can read it. Is that out of the realm this afternoon? I'm just asking if we could actually just read it.
I think that's entirely possible. I hope it is.
If I could have just a minute, I will figure out how to make that work. My
Okay.
wording is a little bit
So
rough, so
why don't I recommend a seventh inning? So I mean, I mean a short recess. Baseball being on our minds all week, so yeah, so we'll return in 5 minutes if that's okay. Just a brief, yeah, a brief recess. Okay, we're back. And thank you, Margaret. She has everything on the screen there that we need. You see the amendment to the motion before you. And is there any questions before we vote? The motion is to be amended by one, adding entrance after existing and removing two, and two, adding an additional clause that reads, direct staff to bring a report in the spring of 2026, identifying options for the central fountain relocation or rehabilitation. So are you ready to vote? All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. So now we go back to the actual motion. And do you want to hear it read as well? Or everybody can read it? I don't know whether people on YouTube would be able to read it or those following online. So the motion is that Committee of the Whole recommend Council of the Municipality of Meaford, one, direct staff to continue to implement immediate retrofits to the existing entrance fountains where possible, including enhancements to surrounding landscaping features. Two, direct staff to bring a report in the spring of 2026 identifying options for the central fountain relocation or rehabilitation. And three, direct staff to bring forward a fulsome Lakeview Cemetery business plan that clearly outlines a 10-year capital plan and the supporting operational resourcing and funding needs through the 2026 proposed budget deliberations. So I'm going to call the vote. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Move on. Yes, thank you very much for the help there. The next item is the recommendation that Committee of the Whole recommend Council of the Municipality of Meaford direct the Treasurer to, pending the completion of the year-end external audit, either fund the operating deficit from the working capital reserve or transfer the operating surplus to the working capital reserve. Mover and seconder, Deputy Mayor Keaveney and Councillor Ennis, thank you. Did you wish to speak to this, Treasurer?
So currently we are in the process of finalizing the numbers for 2024. This is on so that we can finalize the numbers and then we would have a zero year end. So either our surplus or our deficit. And based on the report here, we're showing a deficit. However, it has come to light there is maybe one more adjustment that needed to be done that we have missed. So we could actually be closer to a surplus, but not a very big one. And we're hoping that the auditors will have the report done by Friday and you will see your financial statements on November 17th to close out the year.
And I just like,
Hopefully with the surplus.
yes, and I'd just like to add that the deficit was minuscule, very tiny. So any questions or comments, Councillor Bell?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So we heard this last year in our budget about the legal fees, the charges in our municipality. Last year were on the rise. This year they're on the rise. We probably can expect that again. Are we in a position where our legal is probably climbing?
Through you, Mayor Kentner, yes, our legal fees are high again this year. I think it's something we're going to have to review during budget to see if we need to either increase our legal fee budget or use more of the reserves that is existing. I think there's only about $100,000 in our reserve for legal fees, though.
Okay, any questions, comments? I'll call the vote. All in favor? Thank you, and thank you for the report. The next one is a recommendation that Committee of the Whole recommend Council of the Municipality of Meaford amend bylaw 052-2013 to designate areas where dogs can be off leash and run at large at Memorial Park during specified dates as outlined in Appendix 1. A mover and a seconder for this, Deputy Mayor and Councillor Forder. Thank you. And I think we're going to, sorry, Margaret, go ahead.
No, my apologies for interrupting, Your Worship. I did want to just clarify two small things that we've noticed since the agenda has been published, and this will be clarified for the final version. You'll notice on page 9 that the draft wording still says November 15th. So we just have to adjust that for November 1st to reflect the report. The other change, just for clarification, there's a map as Schedule A for 35 Grant Avenue and has quite a large hash mark for the off-leash area. That is in fact the entire park. And the wording will be changed to just indicate that the off-leash is only in the designated fenced-in area. So I just wanted to point that out before the discussion, just to clarify both of those two elements. So my apologies.
Thank you. So other questions on this or discussion? I guess I'll start at this end. Councillor Yorick, and I'll work my way around.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I have no problems with the report in general. I think it's all very good. And yes, if we can extend the time, that's great. My only question, I guess, is on the actual map that is on page 184, which is the second map, which shows the areas that are kind of out of bounds. I totally understand the playground being logical. At that time of year, not a lot of people swimming. Just wondering whether or not if it was necessary to eliminate from all of the beach area from the playground down to the border that includes the dog off-leash swimming area. I'm just wondering what the validation was for removing all that beach area. Seems to me that I know that many people like to walk along the water even in the winter with their dogs and things like that. So I'm just wondering some validation as to why so much of that beach area was excluded. Thank you.
Thank you for the question through Mayor Kentner to Councillor Urick. I will just offer a brief explanation, but certainly look to both Rick and Holly, who are the authors of the report. I believe this is in part due to simplicity. I think if we were to sign it in two different ways through the season, it would be more complex. And I think also the cleanup efforts, if we contain the dogs in one location, it makes it much more simple for the operations. There's some cleanup that's required, and I think for just the seasonality of everything, that is more clear both in communications and execution for that. But if Rick and Holly have anything that they'd like to add, I certainly will turn that over.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I really appreciate how much people love to walk their dogs in Memorial Park over the winter, but I think there's also a fairness for people who don't have dogs and allow them an area still to be able to be free to walk in over those months. So I wondered about parking for the upper campground. Is that plowed then where people can drive in and go up in that area and park? Or do they need to park along the roadway and up by the mini golf and walk in to the upper campground?
Through you, your worship, Deputy Mayor Keaveney, just a explanation on that. So the wintertime, the lower, which we would consider the exit road, is plowed year round, like basically throughout the winter. Gives us fire access to the existing kin hall and the beach washrooms there. So there is plenty of parking down there, like throughout the winter time. And that's where we prefer, if people are walking their dogs, they can park down on the lower section, and then they can access the upper campground very easily from that location.
Go ahead.
And a second question, if I may, Mr. Mayor. I know it suggests in the report that there's a fair amount of cleanup that's required in the spring from staff. So I'm wondering what we're doing to encourage people to pick up after their dogs in the winter. Are there facilities there? Are we providing bags? What are we doing with signage to encourage that?
Through your worship, Deputy Mayor Keaveney, that is actually a good question. We are adopting signage to go up in conjunction with this to help educate the people to pick up after their animals, obviously as much as they can. As far as providing dog bags, like poop bags, that's something that we can definitely discuss. We do that in a couple of our other dog parks currently. So that's something that we can definitely look at.
Councillor Greenfield.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, just to follow up on Deputy Mayor's question, I understand some off-leash parks have actual disposal containers of some kind that are right in the area. It might help somewhat. I'm gonna step outside the envelope a little bit here. I'd like to see the blue area expanded, not further along the beach, along the waterfront, but I'd like to see it more of a little dog off leash parkette. And I'm just thinking if on figure 2, why could it not be expanded to the south? It's a wooded area. It's close to the eastern boundary. I was down there this morning, and between the little blue area and the bottom of the hill that goes up to the campground, the parking lot, it's a wooded area. Some of it is well kept, some of it is quite natural, and I'm just thinking, as well as having a beach area for the dogs, why couldn't there be a little bit of a walking trail parkette? Now, I know that's going to come at a cost. I also would like to emphasize that it needs to be fenced. How do I go about having staff check into expanding their area? Because I mean, it's great what we've got, but I think we could improve it.
Go ahead if you'd like to respond to that.
Through you, Your Worship, Councillor Greenfield, that's definitely something that we can look into, and through consultation with other staff, we can come up with an idea of whether it's feasible or not.
Go ahead.
Well, that natural area, and again, it's fairly small. It's maybe a little bigger than this room. It's not a huge area, but it is very natural. Right now, I don't think people are walking through there. It's pretty dense. So, but no, I just wonder if we would be more satisfactory if we would have a better layer for the dogs when they're off leash. It's great that they can get down to the water, but especially for very small dogs, I think that'd be an area big enough for them to at least have a walking trail. Okay, I'll digress.
I have a question. Oh, so you go ahead. I'll bring my question later.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate that. And through you, I don't have any problems with this necessarily. However, a comment with regards to the beach area. I have had a few pet owners tell me that the designated off-leash beach area in the water seems like it has some sort of like an algae bloom or something like that, where many pet owners don't want their dogs going in the water, but further west along the beach, the water is much cleaner. So I'm not sure if I haven't seen it myself. This is just what I'm hearing. So I maybe just want to get some comment from staff if they're aware of this, but I think because of that, that might actually force some of the dog owners to move a little bit further down the beach where it's a little bit cleaner in the water. So I'm not sure how we manage that. And also, and I apologize if this was mentioned, but of course, there's another playground area further up in the campground area. So I assume that's also going to be another off-leash space. And that hasn't been reflected in this map here. Also, just another question is with regards to the fencing. I know there was a few options that have been presented in the report, and I just kind of wanted to get an idea of like, what would the costing look like for that? Was the fencing totally necessary? I'd just like to get a little bit more information on the thought process behind that, but primarily, like what would that end up costing us in order to fence off these key areas? Thank you.
Through you, your worship, Councillor Forder. So currently we have temporary fencing already in our possession. So we are looking to, we're not completely fencing the whole area off. We're actually utilizing some fencing in areas where it's not forested. So like the grassy areas, just to basically funnel the public in. Then that way they can enter into the upper campground without worry of, you know, stepping into an area that's, you know, not classified as an off-leash dog area. And just touching on the playground area. So technically in the wintertime, the upper campground is closed to vehicular traffic because we have had some vandalism in the past, which has caused damage to the campsites in that area. So we do barricade it off for the wintertime, but that doesn't eliminate access for the public to walk in. So that access is still there. And the playground itself is, you know, full of snow. So very seldomly have we ever seen anyone up in there. The lower playground is definitely a more popular area.
I have a question about, I'm just not understanding. I understand like that you cannot access the road that goes into the park at where the past the golf and the store or the you know, where you check in to that road going in is not plowed in the winter. Am I right or wrong?
Your worship, that is correct. It is
Okay.
not plowed in the wintertime because unfortunately it would allow vehicular access to the upper campground. And in order for us to keep vehicles off of there, we have to block it at the pretty much at the entrance. By the
So
shop.
you're saying, like, I didn't realize that the lower road was 2 lanes.
It's not. But we do have signage that we do put up that says one two-way traffic.
Oh, okay. So that is possible. And I can understand people would, you know, be courteous and wait for whoever was there first to pass. But I just want to make the point, which I make every year. We're living in a 4-season tourist area and we close our waterfront park. We shoot ourselves in the foot. I don't understand. And we're going out of our way to accommodate people who want to let their dogs run free, but we don't accommodate all the other citizenry. It's just, I'm confused about it. It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. I'm all in favor of an off-leash park for those, but where do people who want to run their kids go? How do they get into the park? I don't know. I throw it out. I think that it's 2025. I just don't understand why we're not a 4-season park. Just go ahead, CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So essentially, when we look at operationalizing parks from a winter perspective, right now our budget doesn't allow it, as you know. Essentially, our park staff end of October. So anything's possible. It's just having the resources. I think one thing that I'd be remiss in mentioning when we start talking about off-leash zones, and I know council's aware of this, but I would say less than 1,000 meters down from the park, we actually have an off-leash dog park that's available for use. I would be very, very mindful And I risk saying this, when we're allowing dogs off leash close to the water, dogs can have a tendency of going out on the ice. As a former volunteer firefighter, I went to a number of calls where dogs have went off shore, went on the ice, and it's the fire department that gets called. And the fact is, that's where it's sometimes nice that you actually have dogs on leash. Not that you want to say to the resident, you should have had the dog on the leash, but we can say to the resident, you should have had your dog on the leash. Even from the campground perspective, understanding that probably 1,000 meters down from the campground, there's an off-leash park. The campground, with probably a lot of volunteer help, a path could be made around that memorial park for a wonderful walking area that anybody could utilize. Just your dog has to be on a leash. Because as I know, there's lots of people that just, you know, have a phobia with dogs, that if a dog approaches them, the dog might be fine, but that individual who has the phobia isn't fine. So, you know, we can't be everything to everybody because we just simply can't afford it. But Mr. Mayor, your point's well taken that, you know, if people want to use parks and maybe want to volunteer to maybe make areas usable, and if council wants to ask staff to come back with, here's something that we could do with relative low cost that has high reward, maximum public use. I think Memorial Park is a hugely underused jewel.
Thank you.
There's a cost to it. But you know, when we look at fencing these areas, you know, using temporary fences may work. It may be more problematic because how many times do they fall over? So staff's going to go out and have to inspect that. So I know the direction was, what can we do to expand the off-leash area? Just from a fresh perspective, I struggle with, you know, utilizing such a key piece of parkland for people to let their dogs run when, again, I know there's an echo in the room, 1,000 meters down the road, we actually have a good off-leash park. The other thing is, using the naturalized area for dog runs isn't necessarily something that lots of people want to do. They want their dogs to run. Running in a forested area, typically they won't run. They'll just sort of sniff around and meander. And again, at what liability is us by providing an area if a dog, you know, or an owner falls in an area that, you know, a tree's down or a limb is exposed. So there's lots of things that we need to look at when we deal with these, but sorry, I'm rambling on. It's just talking off the top of my head. But lots of things that it's a simple solution isn't necessarily the best solution.
Councillor Yuri?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks, Sean, I agree. To your point about a four-season playground, interestingly, a lot of the provincial parks, they don't even there aren't many that maintain open campgrounds in the winter. There's very few that offer winter camping or access, so that's not necessarily unusual. To your point, not we want to get off topic from this, I'd much rather see than investing into this right now. I'd much rather see the Georgian Trail groomed over the course of the winter so that we would have that accessible.
Why don't you bring a
Then
notice of motion on that?
I could do that, not right now, but if we're gonna spend the money on something for a four-season, I would love to see that done as opposed to this right now, something further down the road.
Because that's another thing. I mean, trails like the Georgian Trail it's a 12-month thing, and people. Anyway, I'm off topic, but any more? Sorry, if you have something to add to that, Councillor Forder.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, thank you. And through you, there's no explanation as to why the council resolution that was passed on February 26th did not actually take effect, to extend the off-leash timelines from November 1st to April 15th, because in the analysis, it says the existing December 1st to March 31st. So was there a direction given from council that was not actually implemented by staff? I'm just not sure if I'm not understanding something. But I'd like to just get some clarification on what happened there and why, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Porter, great point. My understanding was you were absolutely correct. There was direction provided by council. It was not fulfilled. However, I will say in defense of staff, there was a lot of changing things that were taking place during that time. There were a few things that that got missed.
Yeah. Mhm.
Thank you for that. I understand. So if this is approved by council and we go from November 1st, April 15th, this is still going to have to come back for final approval at some point. So it's already November 3rd. So this really only benefits for next year, essentially, or for extending the timelines later on in the spring. But as it stands right now, until this is fully, like, if we vote in favor of this today, will it still have to come back on a future council agenda for final approval? Or what was the timeline? Like, how soon can dog walkers walk their dogs? Is sort of a long-winded way of me asking this question. So thank you.
So thank you for the question, and through your worship. Technically, this will come back on the 17th of November. So recognizing that we sort of missed the window. But if council moves this forward and that's the direction, then we understand that that's what council is supporting. And so I believe that we can act on that with council knowledge that will be supported on the next meeting, so that this could be effectively immediately, knowing that that's council's direction. And we wouldn't normally do that, but we recognize the timelines are important to people. So hope that makes sense.
Okay, gonna call the vote if there's no more discussion. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Updates from members appointed to county council, committees and local boards. I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Mayor Keaveney for a report on county council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Grey County Council last met on October the 23rd. And my first thought after the meeting was I have definitely learned to never assume that a short agenda will equate to an early adjournment at Grey County Council. But I also came away thinking that I really appreciated how much every matter is given full consideration and appropriate deliberation. The members of this Grey County Council are thorough, thoughtful, and wise. Warden Matrasov spoke to Local Government Week and expressed her appreciation to staff for carrying out the directives of council so conscientiously. She also acknowledged the work of members of council in representing our communities as being the level of government closest to the people. The warden also mentioned all the volunteers who support efforts within our municipalities, and I felt that was very appropriate. CAO Scherzer praised our Grey County Paramedic Service for receiving high grades in their recent provincial standard review as conducted by the ministry representatives. Currently, the paramedic base in Dundalk is connected to the fire department. With increasing numbers of fire calls, Southgate has had to give notice to the county. They need that space for an additional fire truck. Therefore, a new paramedic base will need to be constructed in Dundalk at an unbudgeted cost of $2,472,000. The funds will be debentured over 25 years. The discussion could not wait for budget deliberations as the county has been placed on a timeline by Southgate. And this is interesting because in our county budget and finance meeting last week, we talked about the fact that there are 3 paramedic bases in the 2026 budget for Grey County. The one in Ayton, one in Feversham, and this one in Dundalk. So they're hoping to get Dundalk and Feversham completed in the spring and then move late summer at some time in that area into building 1 in Southgate. So it's pretty aggressive to try to undertake 3 in 1 year. However, they have perfected a design now, so these stations are all pretty much the same, so that helps. Town of the Blue Mountains has requested delegated authority for certain planning approvals. This ability was provided to all of us as lower tiers back in 2022, which everyone will remember, with an intent at that time of streamlining processes. This authority will allow TBM to approve draft plan of subdivision and condominium project, red line revisions and extensions, as well as part lot controls. The next step is a joint public meeting followed by staff-to-staff discussions, leading to the preparation of an MOU that will return to both county and TBM councils, after which the appropriate bylaws will be presented for approval. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. The Ministry of Health requests the county complete a survey by tomorrow, that being October the 24th, with regards to potential future uses of the existing Rockwood Terrace as a fourth Grey County LTC home. Director of Long-Term Care Jennifer Cornell strongly believed that Grey County cannot take on the management of an additional home. So the message back to the province is that the beds can be potentially reallocated. Staffing would be a challenge, and the home would need to be upgraded from a Class C home to a Class A, which would come at an expense of well over $25 million. And, you know, if you talk about staffing, I mean, for the new Rockwood, they're looking at about, 170 people, and then they'd have to find another 170 to operate the existing Rockwood. So it would be challenging. Additionally, the county levy subsidizes each LTC bed at a cost of $25,000 to $30,000 every year. So the financial pressures would just be too significant. The bricks and mortar of the existing Rockwood Terrace belong to the county. So at some point, we can choose to sell the facility, or if we wish, or we can make other decisions about it. But that $25,000 to $30,000 per bed, and if you think that at the number of beds that the county has, that places a levy burden on the county of somewhere around $8 million for the additional services and care that are provided in county homes. So our homes are definitely top notch. And that's it. If anybody has any questions, or Mr. Mayor?
Oh, that's what happened. So, I was there. Meaford Public Library Board. Any report? Yeah, okay. Councilor Urick, do you have a report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, the Grace Harbor Conservation Authority Board met on October 22nd. So the board heard a presentation from Conservation Ontario Data and Analytics Manager Rick Wilson, who was outlining a potential opportunity for the GSEA to apply for funds available for the Provincial Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks. Conservation Ontario approached the GSCA to consider enrolling its lands into the Canadian Protected and Conserved Areas Database, otherwise known as the 30 by 30 target, as many of the GSCA lands are already eligible to contribute to Canada's target of protecting and conserving at minimum 30% of lands and waters by 2030. Currently, only 13.7% of Canada is protected and less than 11% are in Ontario. So Conservation Ontario currently has funding for a limited time from the MECP to assist other organizations with this process, and is seeking to work with 5 to 7 CAs between now and March 31st, 2026. So the target is to add 15,000 hectares of CA land to the database, and the board agreed this was a very worthwhile initiative and voted to have GSEA pursue the funding and the support of Conservation Ontario. The board also received the first draft of the 2026 annual operating budget. The scope of this budget is different as it's transitioned from a 1-year to a 3-year operating or a budgeting exercise to move toward a more long-term strategic financial planning process. The proposed budget currently recommends a 3.4% increase in 26, 5.23 in 27, and 4.26 in 28. It's important to note that the second and third years are only estimates, but provide a degree of predictability and transparency based on future planning initiatives. The actual budget will be presented to the board in November. This is an item of particular significance to Meaford. GSCA staff has recommended removing the barn at the base of the Trout Hollow Trail on Edwin Street, as is no longer being used for storage, and it presents a snow loading issue for a neighboring property. They're searching to ensure there's no historical significance. They will investigate discussions with Meaford staff to determine possible uses for the site moving forward. I asked on that when actually whether or not they were talking about complete raise, removing the foundation, and with the budgeted amount, they're hoping to remove it all, because that could act as a parking lot for Trout Hollow Trail, additional parking for Beautiful Joe, so that could be of value to us. So here's the big one. So we talked about getting money from the MECP to possibly join the 30 by 30. And then on October 31st, there was a big meeting that CAO Lanthier and myself attended virtually. And Minister McCarthy and staff from the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks announced their plans for modernizing conservation authorities. This includes rethinking governance structures and consolidating all Ontario's 36 conservation authorities into 7 regional conservation authorities. So limited information was provided, but they stated an ERO posting will be coming out soon, and CAs will be consulted independently. And as part of the larger process, to insist in ensuring that the process is smooth, inclusive, and continues to allow conservation services to continue normally. So the consultation process is expected to go into the spring of 26, with actual changes not occurring until 27. However, it raises many questions, because they intimate that if individual CAs will not see staff reductions because they still need to do the work that's mandated by the government. However, there will only be one board for each region, meaning regionally, I believe it's 6 CAs that are in our area are going to be amalgamated into one. So accordingly, it was asked how that board was going to work. And they said that is likely going to be one board for those 6. And so then the question came up, well, then how is there going to be direct municipal representation if you have all these municipalities and it's only one board? They don't know yet. So what's that going to look like, and whether or not that was, and thereby, how does that impact the taxation aspects on the municipalities who are paying for the conservation authorities? Because now this 6 body sharing is going to be taking in this expansive land with limited governance. So it was asked whether or not there would be advisory committees that might be set up for the individual municipalities underneath the board that then would at least have a say into kind of what was going to happen. Of course, they don't know yet. So this is really all just literally came into light last week, and there is a lot of concern. CAO Lanthier and myself as chair were trying to assure CA staff that there was no real changes anticipated for the actual staff, but this is going to have huge seismic impact upon how CAs are run in the future from these tables. So we will keep you informed as we find out.
Thank you for that report. It doesn't sound very good. Councillor Greenfield.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, I think, Councillor Yurick. Of course, we all know that bigger is better. I just want to, a couple of things about our investing in infrastructure meeting, Your Worship. We have a meeting set for this Wednesday, November 5th at 2 o'clock. I know our admin assistant, Sue Brown, has been having a little bit of trouble getting in contact with some of the members of the committee as far as confirmation for the meeting. I certainly hope that we can get a quorum. Our last meeting, we didn't have a quorum, but we want to go over basically the work that's been completed in 2025 and some potential projects that are at least on the horizon for 2026. And I really hope we can have this meeting, because infrastructure is very important in our municipality. One question I did want to ask, Councillor Ennis has been a member of our infrastructure committee in the past, and Councillor Member Ennis is now Councillor Ennis, so I'm assuming he would continue his presence at our meetings. And I just wonder if I could ask our clerk or our CAO of the situation with Eric.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Greenfield. I actually have penned a report for November the 17th that gives a bit of an overview and some options for council to consider for committees. We do have a number of vacancies that are currently available to be filled. So looking for direction from council on November 17th and how we would like to proceed, as well as dealing with the appointments of those vacancies from a councillor perspective that remain from Councillor Bartley. So on the 17th, I anticipate bringing that forward for full review by council.
In the meantime, I'm assuming that Eric will be welcome around our table.
Through Mr. Mayor, I think that's a discussion that maybe the clerk and Councillor Ennis can have just in regards to the status of the membership.
Okay, Councillor Ennis?
If I might just, I want to clarify my own understanding because I don't remember where I got this information, but I was informed that for now I had to resign. So I can't participate until there is a bylaw to amend that, right?
Thank you. If I may, we will review the notice policy, and I believe that by being appointed a counselor, you are effectively not a member of the committee. It's likely you could be reappointed as the counselor to that committee, depending on the composition. But as our CAO has indicated, we'll bring a report with all of the context, and perhaps we can talk afterwards about this more specifically.
When, may I ask, is our next review of our standing committees?
Through Mr. Mayor, so the November 17th report will get into the review of all the standing committees, all the advisory committees for council's consideration on how to move forward.
Yeah, it's a bit of an experiment. I'm a great believer in these advisory committees. It's a great training ground for people who might move into council in the future, and other things. Council can't do all the work that has to be done, but I'm aware that some of these may have been a little ill-advised in terms of their focus, and hopefully we can address that very soon. Okay, so I believe we are set to. Sorry, Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had a meeting of the Grey County Farm Safety Association. And just to let folks know, as always, throughout all of the areas that Grey County Farm Safety puts up a booth at the various fall fairs. One of the things that came out at our last meeting was that the turnout was an increase of people in all of the fall fairs in all of the areas. They just seen that there was a gravitation from folks to take in the fall fair. Also pretty consistent, just using the Meaford and St. Vincent Fall Fair. The Meaford and St. Vincent Fall Fair Board, they've got a lot of things to do in a lot of areas and a lot of prize money to hand out. And a lot of times you'll see prizes, first prizes, $5 and $3 and $2. Where the Farm Safety Association, when we concentrate on the posters, the poster contest for the age groups, and our prize money, it starts off just as an entry, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. But when your posters are chosen in the top first and second place, they get forwarded on to Grey County. That was the thing we did the other night, was we chose winning posters. And winning posters are $25 and $20 and $15. And just on the poster aspect, and I'm sorry, I completely gapped and I didn't bring one, but we were so duly impressed with an artwork of a young person on a poster, and their poster, the heading was Farmers in the Community, and the young person said, Farmers Feed Families. And their poster was designed around the rear wheel of a tractor, just a rear wheel. And they split it in two. The one side was the tractor, and the other side was corn and peas and broccoli and carrots and potatoes. And we liked it so much that we sought permission from the young person and their caregivers, and we turned it into a sticker. I should have brought one. And our desire was that farm families, trucks and tractors could peel this off and put it on their farm equipment that says farmers feed families. And we were just blown away with the artwork and the thinking of young people. So on the note of the Farm Safety Organization, we are financially hurting. Farm safety was hooked in very much so with the workplace safety insurance. They, for a great number of years, gave us grant money. We used, it's about $1,000, and we would use that grant money to do such things as T-shirts or hats. That's stopped. So we're down $1,000 already. And just to plant the seed for 2026 budget, the municipality of Meaford has not supported Grey County farm safety in 24, 25, and we're a farming community. So I'm going to leave that with my fellow councillors just to think about. We can sure use the money, and we don't keep it. And there's not a lot in the bank account, and we like to support, in particular, young people and youth. All of the dynamics of Grey County, all families, and we even reach out to young people who are working with pieces of equipment as simple as a walk behind lawnmower. Please wear your safety shoes, because they end up going to the hospital with a foot injury. So anyway, that's farm safety. It's been a while since I've made a report, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about it.
Thank you, and thank you for raising the issue of our non-support. And I know we'll talk about that when we get to our budget meetings. So I'm going to ask for a motion to move out of committee of the whole at 4:02 p.m. Do I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Eric and Deputy Mayor Keaveney, all in favor? And that is unanimous. So now on to councillor motions. And are there any notices of motion today? Councillor Uri.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Plan to bring a motion dealing with speed reduction at the concession 8 South issue.
Thank you very much. So that's encouraging. Councillor Greenfield.
Worship, yeah, I plan to bring forward a notice of motion requesting to staff to bring forward a report describing the steps necessary and the timeline required to place a question on the 2026 election ballot.
Okay. Any others? Then we'll look forward to our next meeting. We have a motion for decision today. This is Deputy Mayor Keaveney's motion, and I'll turn it over to her to address it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And the title of the motion is Baseline Water Testing on Lands in Proximity to DND. The recommendation, whereas a recommendation regarding water testing was provided to council by the Pump Storage Advisory Committee, PSAC, as a result of a motion presented to PSAC by member Bob Baranski on April the 10th, 2025. Whereas the PSAC motion requested third-party water testing independent from TC Energy. Whereas council received the motion for consideration and passed resolution number 2025-2502, directing staff to share the PSAC water testing resolution with TC Energy to provide comments back for consideration. Whereas there is strong desire from the members of PSAC and from residents within our community for a third-party water testing program as it relates to the Ontario Pump Storage Project, OPS. Whereas members of the municipality may take their water samples for testing to the Grey Bruce Health Unit, acknowledging that the health unit does not test for certain contaminants. Whereas the PSAC motion requests testing for carcinogens, heavy metals and toxins, including but not limited to PFAS, dioxins, furan, etc. And whereas there is concern these chemicals may be present as a result of activities at the 4th Canadian Division Training Centre. Therefore, be it resolved that Council of the Municipality of Meaford direct staff to engage a consulting firm to undertake baseline water sampling and testing for carcinogens, heavy metals, and toxins, including but not limited to PFAS, dioxins, furan, etc., as recommended in the PSAC motion from specific locations in proximity to the proposed site of the OPS project no later than Q2 of 2026. And 2, direct staff to provide the results to council and to PSAC upon their receipt by CAO Everett. And 3, direct staff to include the cost of the work in the 2026 operating budget. So I think that's fairly self-explanatory, but if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer as best I can.
Let's get a seconder for the motion so that Councillor Greenfield. All right. Okay, go ahead then.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, and I think this is great. I don't know if this is getting too much into the weeds, but because that motion is sort of a broad overview, at any point in time, will we have clarification with regards to the number and frequency of tests, acceptable limits for the test results, and the actions that come from those? How will we be able to sort of flesh this out into something that is a little bit more fulsome and detailed?
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Forder, my suggestion would be we would find ourselves a consultant that could complete the actual testing for us and work with them to understand what the best practices, have them actually provide the recommendations as to frequency and the entire process. I think there are consultants out there that I know of that could easily do this work, but would rely on them heavily to be able to outline the parameters in the process and how that testing would take place.
Councillor Yuri.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Point 3, direct staff to include the cost of the work in the 2026 operating budget. Question is, because this is affiliated directly or proportion to the TCE project, should there be something in there about trying to secure the funds back from TCE?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Yurag, efforts would be made. We have a very good, clean process now of where we are requesting funds. An actual request goes to TC Energy prior to any funds being expended. So this is one that we would be making that request and look to hear back from TC Energy of whether or not that would fit their criteria for the pre-development funding, or if there is other funding sources that could be that TC Energy could bring to the table that would help offset the costs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Sean. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I'm just wondering then I should make an amendment just to make sure that that's in there so that there is direction to make sure that that happens. Are we taking for granted that this is now a procedural aspect that happens with all TCA related scenarios? Or do we actually direct this to say that direct staff to include the cost of the work 2026 operating budget and to follow up with TC to determine whether we will be compensated as it relates to the pump storage project?
Through Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Yurg, I think that would be a good addition, possible amendment, because there might be other opportunities where it's just not that simple request, where I think this one would be council's direction to make that request.
Just before we go to more questions, I'd just like to clarify here, was there not some kind of admonition went with the PSAC recommendation that this project not be funded by TC Energy? I'm asking you, Deputy Mayor, if you know that. Or
Yes, it was the discussion at PSAC that this be funded by the municipality because PSAC wants this to be fully separate from TC Energy. They want TC Energy to have no influence over this testing. Now, if the project is all said and done, and then we can submit an invoice, I just want to be cautious with this because I don't want any interference or any attempt to influence or any control from TC Energy in this particular testing.
Through Mr. Mayor, just to be clear, I think this is important for the public to understand as well. Where the municipality is doing work, even if it is TC Energy related, the work that would be completed would be at our control. It would be our consultant. So even if TC Energy was to do a cost recovery agreement with us, it in no way, shape, or form has TC Energy, supplying or retaining the services of the consultant. That is the municipality's contract, and in no way would be influenced by TC Energy.
Councillor Ennis.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to lend my support to this idea, and confirm that in my own work experience, that is the standard practice, that the individual being, or the organization being consulted with, manages, their own consulting and what they would like to see and how it will occur. But essentially just share the costing information and get agreement sort of along the way. And an organization or like a proponent would really only be involved if for some reason the costing came back like extreme or like unreasonable. But in standard industry practice, the costing will be within a particular range, and then it'll be up to the municipality to decide.
Any other questions, comments? Councillor Bell?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll take the opportunity to ask the question, and I wish that our lead person, Emily, was here to answer this. So at the PSAC, when somebody mentioned these specific words to be looked at, my understanding is some of these we don't even test for. Is that correct, or do I have that wrong? Some of these chemicals are in the water, possibly. We don't have the equipment to test for these. Or is that something that maybe you could look into and give an answer on? Because I just said what I said.
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Bell, I would prefer that we give staff an opportunity to bring forward the clarity of what we test for today. And then that way it's very clear for not only council, but the members of public as well.
I'm quite certain that none of these specified are tested. And the other thing is these are well water that will be tested, not Meaford's drinking water. I think that's important for people to understand. Margaret, you have a point? Oh, okay. Thank you.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to add that perhaps it would be a good idea to add 1 or 2 sites if we're going to test well water, to add 1 or 2 like shoreline sites as well, just sort of open water.
Sure. So you've made a note of that. Sure. All right. Let's vote on this then.
Sorry, Your Worship. I just wanted to clarify where we're at this point. So we do have an amending motion on the floor from Councillor Uhrig, and I wanted to make sure the wording was clear for your intention. So please correct me if I'm wrong. That the motion be amended to add direct staff to request a reimbursement of the cost from TC Energy before testing begins. So I wasn't sure if it was subject to cost recovery or just direct staff to have that request.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. The impetus of this is my desire not to have, if possible, the ratepayer pay for this, as the 11,500 people that lived Annan to Christie Beach Road. I think in all fairness, this should be covered. This would not have come about if the TC project had not come about. So I believe there is a mechanism in place to have that compensated, but that an arm's length distance, as Sean said, simply an invoice goes in, it's done independently. But so my request is that, and I'm not sure it has to be done first, because I think the PSAC directive is they want it regardless. I think they wanted to happen regardless whether or not TC is paying for it or not. So I don't think to say that before the work begins is necessary. And the understanding I have is that we are through these processes, anything that's being done that is TC related, we are collecting and then going to TCA and say, please, and we're making a case as to why you should pay it. But I'm not sure the wording needs to be before TCE. We need to ask TCE before doing it, because that, my understanding is PSAC wants it regardless.
Thank you, through your worship to Councillor Urick, and I just wanted to make sure that was your wish and your intention with this, so that this would proceed regardless of whether or not TC Energy is prepared to cover the costs. Otherwise, we would do something along the lines of subject to cost recovery to proceed with this. So I just wanted to clarify.
That was my intent, yes.
If that's the motion on the floor, then we would need a seconder, and then proceed from there.
You want to speak to this?
Please. Yeah, and the reason that that language wasn't included in the motion is because of the desire of members of PSAC and the residents in proximity to the project and those around the community who have concerns to make sure that this study is independent. So I come back to CIO Everett and I want, you've said it already, but I want an absolute that TC will not have influence over the consultant chosen, over the locations that will be tested, over the chemicals that would be tested for, that we can do.
The work is done. I'm not sure. It may be,
I
but
don't believe it would be,
Yeah.
based on what we have in writing from TC Energy.
Yes.
I think with all due respect that we should follow the procedure that we signed on for. And I believe that you're absolutely correct that we would have the opportunity to call all the shots on this, including who the consultant is and everything. And I think that should satisfy PSAC, if provided that it's done in that manner. Councillor Greenfield, you.
Thanks, Your Worship. I believe what the Deputy Mayor has said was the intention was this was to be a municipal venture without TC, but I appreciate what our CAO has suggested. And I appreciate what Councillor Urick has brought forward, because I guess I keep thinking that yes, the committee can bring forward ideas and motions and suggestions and opinions to council, but I've always felt the final judgment was up to council to if they wanted to refine things. So I'm not sure, but the final decision. But on the other hand, if TC knows that they're going to know about this, they're going to know about our decision, and I mean, this isn't going to be put into place tomorrow. The studies are not going to begin. So I think perhaps first of all we should trust the open-mindedness of TC that they might come forward to council and to the committee and say, geez, we're open to suggestion about funding for this. They have been reasonably responsible in the past, and I don't think it's out of the question that they might get involved in this. I think we should give them the benefit of the doubt anyway, but no, I'm happy with the motion as is, but as I say, I think it is up to council to tweak it if we choose to.
Councillor Ennis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I don't have obviously the applicable legislation in front of me, but ultimately for something like this, the community being consulted absolutely should be reimbursed for a project like this. And I would imagine that if for some reason testing just the water, for some reason isn't going to kind of make it through because, maybe the province has a different opinion or a reinterpretation, it might be worthwhile to also add in into those baselines tests of the soil up top as well. If the concern coming from PSAC is contaminants from the soil up top making their way down, test both. Test up top, see what's there, and then also test down below. And over time, keep monitoring both and see if there's any changes.
Okay, CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple points for clarity. I can advise council that actually soil testing up on top is currently being completed. So that's, and that again is application being made. Not to confuse the issue, but I'm going to probably. I believe that, it would be prudent for council, if you're looking for any funding from anywhere, I think the ask should go to the federal government. We're talking about D&D lands, regardless of whether or not TC Energy moves forward or not, there is evidence to believe that there is contaminants on that site. So if we are going to proceed with anything, I think making that request to D&D and the federal government to help at least fund some testing along ideally the perimeter of the site, because my concern is we test on private property and we find that there's contaminants in the soil. Not to say that there is, but just on a what if. That's not TC Energy. That's another source. So I think I know what the answer will be. However, I think it is worthy of a formal request being made to the federal government. And again, doesn't preclude us from moving forward, but it also identifies the owner of land that is potentially or most likely the source of any contaminants. So just a suggestion.
It sounded to me like we could use a well-crafted amendment here. So, Councillor Urick?
Well, yeah, I'm just wondering, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just wondering, and thank you, Sean, for that clarification. And would it help then say that, yes, the amendment, seeing we don't have a secondary yet, and I'm still working it, whether it would be literally an and/or situation where we would seek the cost recovery from the federal government and/or TCE. If you would prefer just and, I'm fine with that.
I'm sorry, okay, do you have anything drafted there, Margaret?
Possibly. Thank you, Your Worship. So that the motion be amended to add a fourth clause being direct staff to request a reimbursement of the cost from the federal government and TC Energy.
I'm looking to you, Deputy Mayor, if that works for you. Okay, is there a seconder for that? Councillor Forder? Any further discussion? All in favor? And that is unanimous. Again, thank you. Okay. Yes, we got to do the motion as amended. So I'm just going to say, and that the motion, yeah, we just need to vote on the motion as amended, and you've heard the amendment and you know the motion, so all in favor. Yes, and that is passed unanimously. Sorry for the confusion there, but it always gets complex when we start changing things. I'm going to have a call for the adoption of the minutes of the September 29th meeting and October 20th meeting. I need a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Urick and Councillor Greenfield, thank you. Any errors or omissions in those? Otherwise, all in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Is there anything on the communications agenda that anyone wanted to bring forward? Councillor Forder?
Yes, sir. This would be the appropriate time if there's something on the correspondence list I'd like to bring up. Or are we not there yet?
We're not there yet, but I mean, hang on, if there's nothing on the communications agenda that anybody wants to raise, then let's move on to the correspondence agenda. Or let's go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to raise item 19, which is the municipality of Blue Water. They have a resolution keeping climate change as a foremost national priority. And I think that's really important that we amplify this message as we recognize the importance of climate change and how it affects municipalities. And as a municipality who is right on the waterfront, and we are susceptible to a lot of risk when it comes to climate change, I think it'd be in our best interest to support this resolution.
And I'm going to ask our clerk how we deal with that from a procedural standpoint. Can we just, if we get a seconder, we can vote to support that too? Okay.
That's correct.
Anyone wish to second that? The Councillor Ennis, excellent. Any further discussion? All in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. So we are finally at the end of our agenda here, and at this time, the recommendation is be it resolved that Council of the Municipality of Meaford does now go into a closed session at 4:27 p.m. with the CAO and clerk in attendance to discuss a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, and that's under Open Meeting Exemption 3 of Section 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001, specifically a potential land acquisition. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Sorry.
My apologies. I just need a mover and a seconder for that motion as well.
Oh, okay.
Good
Sorry.
to have the vote. We also.
So it's moved by Councillor Forder, second by Councillor Ennis. All in favor? Thank you very much. So I will report out after we have this closed meeting. Thank you. Reporting out on our closed session this afternoon at 4:58 PM with the CAO and the clerk in attendance, discussing a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board under open meeting exemption C of section 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001, and specifically potential land acquisition. Council provided further direction to staff. And with that, we've got one final piece of business. The recommendation be it resolved that bylaw 2025-67, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the meetings of council of the corporation of the municipality of Meaford, be taken as read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed. Mover and a seconder, Councillor Forder and Councillor Urick, thank you. All in favor? And that is carried. And with that, I'll declare this meeting adjourned.